Test, 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 test. Okay, getting started in just a second here. Thank you so much, Saria, for stopping by and showing up early. I really appreciate it. Sorry I'm running a little bit late. Found a baby bird outside and wanted to make sure that it was okay. Needed to do a little research on what the correct approach was to not like bother it, but also not to leave it alone. But yeah, I'm gonna test the audio quality and then I'll be ready to go in just a second. Okay, I guess that came through just fine. Alrighty. Okay, so getting started here in 3, 2, 1, click. Okay, looks like the chat is up, the reactive image is up, background, everything, soundtrack. Okay, good. Haven't done this in a couple weeks, so I want to make sure everything's coming through okay. Thank you as always for your patience and your support. Sorry, I really appreciate you you being here and you know, getting the notification and everything. It's good to know that the notifications are working. I never really asked about that. But that's great. How are you doing? How's your weekend going? Hopefully you're up to some fun and or relaxing stuff. The weather over here is very, very nice. A little humid, a little oppressive, I suppose, but overall quite lovely. And hopefully it's bearable for you over there as well. Bearable, I mean, I should have said enjoyable. You know what I mean? Yeah, running a tiny bit late this afternoon because why am I on the color version? Just go back to the old black and white version. Because we found a little baby bird outside the house, and you know, I think the inclination is to want to pick it up and to protect it and to take good care of it. And I know that depending on how you interact with a baby bird, you can actually sometimes make things more difficult, even though you want to help it out. So we were trying to do some research. There's some neighborhood cats that we're trying to make sure don't stop by and go after it. But in the end, we were able, I think, to kind of put it off to the side, and we're trying to figure out, my partner's trying to figure out whether to try to build a little surrogate nest or to call the wildlife rehabber in the morning or whatnot. So, but we're good. We're good. It's a nice part of living here is we get quite a bit of local wildlife without, you know, the same level of craziness in Australia, for example, of having giant spiders in the house and shit like that. Although, a family member of mine lived in South Africa for a while, and I never confirmed this. They could have been exaggerating, but they used to brag about how, like, they would wake up in the morning and find, like, some sort of, I forget if it was a cheetah or whatnot. I forget what actual large cats are endemic to the region that they were in, but basically it was just like, oh, cool, there's like a baboon in my truck. Oh, tomorrow, oh, there's like a cheetah back there. You know, he would always tell tall tales of all the crazy animals that he would find. Who knows if any of them were true. Any of them were true in retrospect, but it was always fun. Sorry, says pretty good. Oh, good. I'm really glad to hear that. Lots of storms lately because global warming and people still denied. Yeah, that's the fact that people still are confused about that is very frustrating. But I think you're awesome for saving the baby bird. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I don't like. I want to help it, but I also don't want to bother it if to like accidentally disturb it further. You know, because they don't know the human beings are like trying to help them necessarily. They are prey animals, and it's very easy for them to just think that anything larger than them is a predator, and to get more stressed out, and then the stress can be very difficult for them to handle as well. So, you know, it's tough to know what the right thing to do is sometimes. But thankfully, you know, when I'm feeling down about the state of humanity or whatever I think about, you just Google like what to do with a baby bird, and you see how many people have that exact same reaction when they find like an injured animal. The vast majority of people like want to do something to help and want to be careful. And, you know, I mean, I haven't seen the numbers or anything, but just seeing what an outpouring there has been online for folks looking for answers to those sorts of questions. I mean, it's very reassuring, I guess. So as for the stream today, First of all, if you're new to the stream, as always, welcome. Thank you so much for checking out the video, stopping by and hanging out. This is going to be a relatively low-key stream. We're going to be talking about Naruto today. Over the past few months, we've been responding to videos and analyzing the arguments and basically just, talking about versus battle matchups, and we're going to sort of be doing some of that today. But this all kind of started several months ago when I started doing these streams. There are two things that inspired it. The first was responding to one of my favorite Naruto debates out there, actually my favorite Naruto debate out there, which is between Noodles and Weeaboo Warrior. And it's my favorite one to listen to and to talk about because of how many arguments are brought up and the variation in quality and the variation in styles. I've already kind of talked about this before, but my opinion is that Weeaboo Warrior did an excellent job of accumulating a vast amount of evidence and data across an entire series that I don't even know if he's like a Naruto guy per se, right? But he did a lot of research on Pain coming into the debate and was prepared to talk about pretty much every aspect of Pain as a fighter and his ability set. Whereas Noodles relied more on rhetoric and I guess skepticism and attempting to kind of I wouldn't even say distract, but just kind of deconstruct the arguments. Didn't, in my opinion, present a whole lot of solid evidence on his own to argue for his case. More just spent his time trying to distance the arguments that the opponent was making. So we have evidence on one hand and rhetoric on the other hand, and I think regardless of whether or not you agree with either person or whether or not you like either combatant or favor either combatant in the matchup, you can learn a lot. Noodles relied on Tsukuyomi. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I don't know. Sorry if you've been following the new stuff he's been up to. I'll probably talk about it probably talk about it more in a couple weeks once I've thought about it a bit more. But it's yeah, he's developing, he's evolving into a new. The Tsukuyomi is taking on a new form. But actually, he dropped it again in the debate with was it not Shad? Troy, I think it was. So, Tsukuyomi still endures to this day. But yeah, there was stuff I don't know. For example, Noodles claimed that in the novel, which he didn't specify what novel was, he claimed that Kakuzu detected a genjutsu that was cast upon him and was able to completely avoid it and nullify it before it affected him. And what happened actually was that the Akatsuki novel, Evil Flowers in Bloom, I think is what it's called, Hidon and Kakuzu were actually placed under the effects of a genjutsu and they were victimized by it, so to speak. And then this kid called Hohozuki, who they met, had to kind of bring it to Kakuzu's attention. And then once Kakuzu realized it, he was like, oh, of course, and then he broke it, right? So Weeaboo Warrior, the only thing that Weeaboo Warrior kind of failed to do, in my opinion, in that debate was to push back a bit on some of those things, because Noodles would just say oh yeah, this totally happened, dude. Yep, it totally happened. It absolutely happened. Don't even bother looking it up. It's just so obvious that it happened. And then Weeaboo Warrior would be like, oh yeah, okay, I trust you. And just kind of went with it instead of asking for the receipts. Which to me, it was okay, he was arguing, he was treating the whole conversation in good faith, right? He was just kind of going along with it because, yeah, why would anybody lie about stuff like that? Obviously we're all just trying to have a fun, lighthearted conversation here type thing. But anyway, I still love talking about that debate because of just how much it covers and how much there is to learn from it. So that was part one. Oh, hi, Omnibomni. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by. How you doing? Hope your weekend's going okay. Omnibomni says, Weeaboo Warrior seems more so interested in the nerdy knowledge you can get out of power scaling rather than the actual debate aspect. Yeah, I think that's fair to say, especially given that most of his content that I've seen, especially recently, has focused on the the tier list stuff where he's been doing deep dives into various franchises, character arrays, and things like that. I know he's done some Disney stuff. He's done some Korra and the Last Airbender and stuff like that. So I think overall that's sort of what his focus is, which is part of why I was so impressed with his performance in that debate, because kind of like Swag Kage, I don't think Swag would describe himself as a debater, not to put words in his mouth, but I think that when When Afro asked him about it in their debate, he's like, I'm not really a debater, you know, I've only done a couple of these. And so, yeah, it's just a matter of like what you choose to focus on. But he still like put in so much effort in trying to bring as much evidence to the table as possible. But yeah, I don't think he really, apart from, you know, knowing the basics of standards of like burden of proof and the standards of evidence and stuff like that, he didn't really push Noodles very hard on the rhetoric and the competitive aspect of things, which personally I'm more interested in the knowledge as well, so that's why I kind of like his approach more. Yeah, I'm doing just fine, thank you. It's a little hot over here, a little humid, but overall the weather's really nice, and so I've been trying to spend more time outside and, you know, hiking around with the dog and stuff. I was a little late today because we found a little baby bird outside, and we were trying to make sure we did the right thing with it, you know. But I think he's safe for the time being, especially from the neighborhood cats. That was the biggest concern. He's evolving me. Sounds like he's a Digimon. Well, it seems like he's stumbled across this meta argument, and he's basically just been going around to different servers, like, or different people, not even really having a debate, just kind of like reading the script and then leaving, like literally. And so, I don't know. I think his meta is like, if I can just make the person that I'm talking to look dumber than me, then I'll have won, I guess, and I don't even need to stick around to hear the verdict, because I've already just, there's no possible way anybody will look dumber than I just made my opponent look, and so I've won. And it's just, but when you actually break down what he's talking about, it doesn't really work. I think I'm going to save most of my commentary on that for next week's stream, because I'd like to do a stream on just like what I consider to be quote unquote toxic arguments that just shut down conversations, and there's like no better example of that. And then eventually I want to talk about like data book stuff, but yeah, I'll talk about that more in a little bit, I suppose. Oh good, I'm really glad to hear that your weekend's going well, Omni. Saturday was 10 hours work. Oh wow, that's quite a lot on a weekend. Then relaxation today. Well earned, I'd say. I'm glad you're getting a chance to kick back a little bit. And thank you for stopping by and spending some time with us on the stream as well. That's very much appreciated. Or my voice is cracking so much, I don't know what's up with that. Anyway, so as for the topic of today's stream, oh yeah, the second thing that kind of got me interested in streaming in the first place was that I was reading through the Shikamaru the Shikamaru fight against Hidan and Kakazu, and I was just noticing like how many little interesting things there were on panel that I wouldn't normally pay much attention to over the course of a casual read through, but I was actually learning a lot about the fight overall by taking my time and like paying close attention and doing a close read to the fight. So it's not a big deal or anything, but I still see people from time to time talking about the Pain versus Naruto fight, and specifically saying that like Naruto should scale over Pain overall, because Naruto came in and was like no diffing and sweeping Pain and totally annihilating him, and they would therefore put just Pain above Naruto categorically, right? And so I don't think that's quite a correct reading of the scene. I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding there in terms of the advantages that Naruto had at that point in the fight. So basically, I just want to go through the Pain versus Naruto fight and a little bit of Jiraiya versus Pain, and talk about some of the stuff that I learned during my close reading, so to speak, little things. I just noticed this here, actually. I'll point out in a second. And hopefully, if anybody comes across this, they can use this as a resource to better understand the fight as well, and maybe just help like slightly correct some of the misunderstandings that I've seen. So not a big deal, not a super serious topic, you know, it's just going to be a chill read through of the chapters surrounding the Pain versus Jiraiya fight, and then hopping over to Pain's, mostly his fight with Naruto, but we can also take a look at the village assault as well to learn a couple of things there. Let's see. So let's see. Oh yeah, Omni, I'm sorry that my streams have been going on a little later. Like usually I've been having them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my local time. But to be honest, like it's resulted in me taking time sort of away from my family and stuff during the day. I would really like to make sure that I schedule the stream as conveniently for as many people as possible. But I had to kind of balance that with like against being available for stuff that people need me for during the day. So this time is probably going to be what I do for the next little while. I do apologize to anybody if that's made it harder to kind of stop by. And always, like, if you can stop by and you want to chat and hang out, I really appreciate that. But always, you know, don't feel any obligation to. Like, if you would rather watch the VODs and that works better for you, please do that. There's never any problem with that whatsoever. And feel free to leave questions and comments, and I'm more than happy to like start the next stream by doing like a delayed Q&A, so to speak, if you have anything you'd like me to cover or to chat about in the future. But yeah, thank you for your support, and thank you for for stopping by. I appreciate that. And I see you there, Luan Jackson. I'm gonna say hi in just a second. But yeah, if you get sleepy, please don't stay up late. Please, you know, get some rest, hydrate, and all that stuff. You said you have disagreements with Weeaboo Star Wars scaling, but at least he seems like a genuinely nice dude, unlike certain someone. Yeah, exactly. And kindness and genuineness, you know, if you say something that is completely bogus and weird, but you are open to having a discussion about it and learning, then it's like, whatever. I'm gonna try and say like a Bob Ross thing, like your happy little mistake is just a stepping stone to greater knowledge or something like that. I'm sure he would have said it much better, but there's something like that, right? As opposed to the photo negative of that, the opposite of that, where like you're not nice and also not willing to learn anything, then it just makes things really maybe entertaining for some, but very, very difficult. Omni Bumney says, you have me on the cusp of going to a less than planetary Naruto sense. Yes, my agenda is finally spreading. I mean, look, if you... I'm actually okay with, especially if there's an argument that's been, like, well-constructed and you think you have evidence for it, and maybe the... not to say, like, oh, you think you have evidence, right? But, like, if you've accumulated some evidence, you have, like, a research position, or even just, like, a fun headcanon about Naruto blowing up the planet, that's totally fine. Or even planetary AP, not a destruction feat, right? That's totally fine. I'm not really bothered by that per se. I'd like to have a discussion about it, and I'd like to talk about the ways that people get to those ideas, just to make sure there's no misunderstandings. But I mean, it's fine to have like fun, to come to fun conclusions. If I wind up like giving you some information that helps you make up your mind about it, or even, you know, changes, makes you more convinced of your own position, that's great. What I tend to be annoyed by is more the people who take like a militant stance and they're like, Naruto is definitely outerversal and he'll crush like Goku's head between his toes or something like that, and they try to like make it into this thing where Naruto is what's the word, objectively a better series than other series because Naruto just like scales to this crazy level, and they try to make it like a competition with other series. I don't give a shit about that. I don't think that's very fun for me anyway. So hopefully that seems reasonable. Sui! Cristiano Ronaldo, Sui! Yes, you're bringing me back to some fun days. Man, I keep blanking on the name, but did you watch the World Cup when it was Italy versus France, I think, and it was the final match, right? And there was a French guy on the French side who was bald, and at a certain point he just like lunged forward and like smacked one of the Italian players in the chest with his skull. And that's like the shot that was heard around the world. Like when I was in Italy at the time, like nobody would shut up about that for like an entire year. And it just like the Italy-France rivalry was so thick, it was like all anybody was talking about for the longest time. Ronaldo's a legend, right? Like he's basically, would you think it's fair to say that he's like the Muhammad Ali of like Italian soccer players? Like he's sort of, or like that maybe a better example is like Lance Armstrong or something like that, right? Like he's the one to beat. He's the legendary figure. Or do you think he's overrated? I don't know. He seems to have this kind of legendary reputation, I think. Saria says, make sure you're streaming at a time that works for you. You shouldn't have to stress yourself out trying to juggle this stuff. Yeah, I appreciate that. Honestly, like I've been a bit stressed about it because I did quite a bit of research for the previous streams, and I think certain events in the community this week have been a little stressful, and I wasn't sure. Like I wanted to do the data book stuff, but I felt like I should reread all the data books before preparing for that, and to be honest, with like work and stuff, I was just like, man, it's not gonna be fun. Like if I try to cram this and like spend all day Saturday like doing the research and prepping, I'm gonna be exhausted on Sunday. I'm not gonna have any fun. Oh, Zidane, yeah, exactly, Zidane. Thanks for reminding me the name. And so I just decided to do this stream in particular so that we could just chill and chat, you know, and have a little bit more laid back. I do want to have more in-depth conversation about the other stuff for sure, but you know, sometimes it's nice to just relax a little bit. So I appreciate the willingness to come along with that. Let's see. Omni says, it seems I'm a bit behind on the stream. Good that you're making sure to spend time with the family and putting them before. Oh yeah, it could be that the stream is lagging. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I do want to make sure that my family have been very supportive of my nerdiness and geeky habits and stuff, so the least I can do is be available for them, right? Let's see. Luan Jack says, how do you feel about government can't do anything scaling? Like, I find it hard to believe that a country would fire, oh yeah, for their entire nuclear arsenal to kill one guy. That'll have catastrophic effects. Do you have an example of the sort of thing you're talking about? Would an example be like, oh, so would it be like saying Itachi scales above everyone in the Leaf Village together, and the counter argument to that would be something like, well, he's never fought all of them, so how do you know that? And then the first person would say something like, well, the only reason he never fought all of them was because, you know, government and politics and real world considerations. They would never send out everybody in the village after one person, and therefore my position holds. Like, Itachi would just beat them all up. It's just that he hasn't had the chance. Is that the sort of thing you're talking about? Or are you more talking about like in the last, when everybody kind of charges up this chakra cannon to fire at the moon, where they're combining all of their power together to do this like insane DC feat, but that's something that they would never do unless they had some sort of external pressure? Am I even like remotely on track with what you're saying? I'm not sure, but I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah. Omnibomni says, I'm interested in what you think on the calc about the growth of the world tree. Yeah, so honestly, I'm sorry, did you link me to the actual like math calc? Because I'd like to take a look at that. I think we looked at that before, and I'm just like blanking on it, right? That's honestly the most interesting like planetary argument that I've heard so far. I think probably the most compelling one that I've seen, or like the one that has the most direct evidence in the manga, is just Boruto's Uzuhiko Rasengan in Two Blue Vortex. What's his name? Kashin Koji says, why were you charging it up that much? Are you crazy? Are you going to, you might have like blown up the planet, or something to that effect. And so that was the first time that I think I heard anybody in Naruto say anything that was like, okay, this could have actually destroyed the planet. Apart from, you know, draining all the chakra from the planet gradually. I'm talking about like a specific single attack, like the Uzuhiko Rasengan. But I really like that idea about the tree, because in order to, we're not talking about the amount of energy it's required to disintegrate other things. We're talking about the amount of energy that it's required to nurture and grow and develop like the cells of something. And that's a really interesting calc. Like, how are they calcing the rate of like cellular expansion and duplication and the energy involved in that, and the size of the tree as it snakes through the earth? That's really interesting. And honestly, yeah, I think that's something that to the amount of life force that would be required to grow a tree, not just as big as it is on the battlefield, but also to have the whatchamacallit, all of the vines. If you take the statement literally that the tendrils of the tree, the roots of the tree rather, are actually going through the earth, then that means they have the energy to displace like the crust of the earth all around the earth in order to reach out on a global scale to suck everybody's chakra up. And that's, you know, if you take into account the mass of that and the amount of energy required to do that, I think that's very significant. I'd be very curious to hear what people think about that, for sure. I don't have an opinion on it just yet that's definitive, but I really, really, really like the approach, if that makes sense. Yeah, Zidane, okay. Omnibomni says, I haven't gone through the math of that much. Oh, I'm sorry, I totally missed that. But I see it thrown around often. It's the one thing keeping me from non-planetary stance. Yeah, I think, I guess if I wanted to try to take an opposition stance, I would just say, like, that would, so, okay. So here's some things to consider if you want to try to predict the opposition to it. One is that you have to then figure out like which character gets the feat, because that tree at that point is a Ten Tails that has fused with Kaguya and then started to absorb some energy from people locally after Madara. Like, I have to go through the whole sequence of it, right? But like, Madara becomes a Ten Tails Jinchuriki, but then the tree is still there, and then he casts Tsukuyomi on the moon, and then the tree starts spreading out and growing more, and then grabbing people, and then assimilating chakra, and then that eventually absorbs or merges with Madara and becomes Kaguya. It's like, I'd have to go through the full series of events. It's a little convoluted. But basically, what I would struggle with is figuring out who to give that feat to. So is it like a feat of the Ten Tails itself? But the Ten Tails is also absorbing chakra from the people there to grow itself. And then it's like at various points merged with Madara and with Obito. And then the Ten Tails is also like a fusion of the Ten Tails and Kaguya. So how exactly do we apportion the feat to then make it useful in a conversation? But really, I'm just trying to like, I'm assuming that somebody's going to come after you and be like, oh yeah, well now let's debate it, right? If that doesn't happen, you don't have to worry about that shit, right? It's quite an interesting perspective either way. Ronaldo is definitely the second best player of all time behind Messi. Okay. Sorry, is it Messi or Messi? There's been a lot of revisionism on him of late, but they just haters. That's fair. Yeah, I feel like I've been seeing that name Messi like more frequently, like in more memes and stuff. Maybe Ronaldo's been playing for decades at this point, right? So maybe he's kind of slowing down a little bit, and it's time for the new generation, like Kakashi would say. Haven't linked it, but I'll try to do so. Oh yeah, no worries. It wasn't in the streams on Noodle's videos, so you looked at the whole World Tree Calc on stream. No, I don't think I have, but I'm very interested in, honestly. So thing in the community this weekend, sorry, that was me being sort of vague. I guess like, I don't want to get too much into like stream drama or stuff, but you know, I'm bisexual. I've mentioned this before, I think, and this is a LGBT friendly stream. A happy Pride Month, by the way, and Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Regardless if you're gay or straight or any way you identify, you know, I want to remind everybody that you deserve love, that you're awesome, that you have a place, and especially if you're a dude this month, but even if you're not, you know, try to reach out to people, try to stay connected to people who you love and who are important to you, and find ways to, you know, celebrate yourself. I think Pride Month should be for everybody. You know, we should all be proud of who we are. But anyway, that's something I want to make clear. And I guess some people would say I'm too sensitive. I'm, you know, too much of a snowflake, I suppose. But when I see homophobia and people throwing homophobic terms around, I get pretty, like, I don't like it. I think it can maybe be funny to some people, but it can also cause some harm. It doesn't bother me all that much personally. Like, I'm not offended by it, but I do worry about, like, younger kids in communities and streams, you know, like, potentially being on the receiving end of that, and it's not super exciting. And so I've left a few of the servers that I was invited to. I appreciate the invites, you know, and I did have fun talking to some people there, but I left quite a few because there's just so much of it, and the few times I've brought it up, like, nothing seems to have happened. And granted, like, these aren't my spaces, it's not my like, again, I've said this before, but like, I'm not the dad of the community going around telling people what they can and can't do. But you know, if I join a community and I'm there for a little while and I try to at least contribute a little bit and to participate in a little bit, and I ask for like moderation on some homophobic stuff, and then those people are still there and they're still saying homophobic things, it's like not Six, to be clear. And I know I talked about Six before. Six is cool. Six, you know, reached out and we talked and everything. We're totally fine. But like certain other people, it gets just kind of discouraging. And then, you know, I try to advocate for like fairness and politeness, and for people to be to try to focus on you, not like you can't have a competition, you can't be like a little aggressive or heated if you need to be in a competition, but also to remember we're talking about like somebody's art, you know, we're talking about somebody's work, and we should try to at least have a tiny bit of intellectual curiosity and try to state our facts clearly and have like a reasonable conversation with each other from time to time. It should be about that first, and that can fuel the conversation. But then you see the way that people talk about that, and they're just not having it. Like, and I just kind of realized that I was not I guess I was like out of pocket or whatever. I have my own personal view on how debates should be conducted and how people should treat each other in communities, and that's just not what the already existing communities. I'm not talking about Sage's server per se, but just like what some of the other existing communities out there, they don't see things the same way. And so I guess I had like a choice. I could stick around and try to be like, good cop, bad cop, and go around and like tell people they were being naughty and deal with the cynicism and the hostility and the homophobia, or I could just like take a step back and focus on my own stuff. And I think that's more productive than just trying to fight with everybody. But it is kind of sad though, because I think about other people who might join and then get chased off by the homophobia and the hostility. It's depressing that so many people seem to want, like, genuinely prefer to fight each other and to belittle and demean each other, and then like if you say anything about it or speak up against it, then you're part of the problem. It's just a really weird vibe and disappointing, because the series to me is about, characters fighting, yes, but it's about love and understanding and empathy and compassion coming out of those fights. And I guess I expected that. My fault for having the expectation, right? But I expected that there would be more of that in the community, and in some places there is. In some places there's a lot of it, and I've met quite a few folks on like Sage's server who are really, really nice people and are genuine and kind and helpful. And then there's other parts of the community that are just like, I don't know. It's not my place to tell people that they can or can't do that sort of stuff, but I personally find it really disappointing. And so I had to just kind of take a minute and take stock and like clean up a lot of, kind of take a step back from a lot of conversations and stuff, because it was just not like productive. It was not positive in any way. Just like a big drain of energy and time. So it was a little disappointing, but to be clear, no, I wasn't like under attack. Nobody like doxed me or anything. People weren't coming after me personally. I know Mortified isn't a big fan of me because of my sexuality, but he seems to have a lot of stuff he's working through anyway. I don't even really hold it against him. He just seems like he's working through a lot and kind of lashing out a little bit, and he needs some help. Not really my place to get involved with his affairs, so to speak, but that I can kind of understand sometimes, like lashing out if you're in a bad place. But when it's just the norm, when you walk into a place and like you're seeing more F slurs than you are hellos, it's a little much. So anyway, I'm sorry for kind of going off topic for a little bit, but that's kind of the community thing. I guess then adding that to the whole, there's one other thing I'll whine about for a second. It's just that, I still don't understand why Seth is around. Like, he's if he's reformed and if he's like actually contributing positively to the community, okay. But when I watch his videos, it's a lot of like weird kind of gaslighting and belittling his audience, who then throw large sums of money at him. And it's weird for somebody to have like done what he did and then to come back and just be like, I don't know, I guess everybody had really short-term memory. And then of course like the arguments that Noodles has been peddling recently, which are essentially, I see them spreading, I see people talking about them and glomming onto him, which is just like, make a positive claim, don't substantiate or support your claim. If anybody challenges you at all, they are antithetical to power scaling itself. Yell over them and leave, and that means you've won. And it's like this really weird, toxic, projecting, hypocritical, gaslighty, hostile, stupid bullshit that people are apparently enjoying, and that's fine. If you find entertainment from that, it's okay. But it's like, again, personally, not what I had hoped to see. Personally, kind of upsetting that, like, I don't know, like to see Naruto, the series that I like really enjoy, being used for that sort of thing, and also for other people essentially being discouraged from pursuing their own knowledge. Like, I could make, like I said before, I could like spend 20, 30, 100 hours trying to convince you all that Naruto's not multiversal, but if you think that you have better evidence than me and you disagree, that's fine. You're allowed to believe that. I'm sorry we couldn't resolve it, but I would like to hear your counter arguments. I'd like to have a conversation, keep the shit going, right? I'm never gonna like call you a slur and like kick you off my channel for a disagreement. I'm never going to tell you that you can't go develop your own ideas and that you need to be ashamed of yourself or whatever. That you disagreeing means that you are inherently an enemy. Like, what the fuck is that about? It's just really weird. So to be honest, I got pretty upset, and then I took some time off, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna focus on making my own shit, and I think that's been better. Like, looking forward to talking to you guys, hanging out and commiserating and talking about the chapters that I love instead of worrying about other people trying to break that down, I guess. So sorry / not sorry for the long ramble. I just you know, that's kind of where my head's been at, and just thought I'd be honest about that. But yeah, it's not like it's more what happened in my head inside the community as opposed to like some big scandal or whatever. It's the same old shit, you know. And it's not the whole community. It's not every single person or every single community. I just want to not blame everybody by association, right? It's just a part of it. Anyway, I gotta catch up on chat here. Luan Jack says, I'm talking about something like a Tomas Andre solo leveling situation where the American government can't do anything to stop him because he's too strong. Oh, interesting. And even their nuclear arsenal won't do it. Yeah, I was watching The Boys recently, and that definitely seems to be the case with Homelander, right? Like, there's nothing that they can really do unless they have like the anti soup virus that they managed to develop, but it takes a lot to be able to actually use that effectively. Yeah, so is the idea that there are people in Naruto like that. I mean, I would genuinely be surprised if well, here's the thing. I think probably Naruto and Sasuke are still relative to each other at least in early Boruto before Baryon mode happens. And if that's the case, then Sasuke should be able to keep Naruto in check. Like, if Naruto attacked the village, right, there was a whole village against him, Sasuke should be able to keep him in check until Naruto gets, like, fatigued enough for the other villagers to start contributing, in all likelihood, in my opinion. But if Sasuke wasn't there, I don't know. If he were really bloodlusted, if, like, he were possessed by a demon or something, he was just going around, like Kurama back in the old days, like, thrashing the village, I don't know if like the entire village would be able to stop him. I honestly, if you take everybody from all of the villages together and put them up against Naruto with full stage mode, Kurama, Avatar, everything, right? As an adult Hokage, like, who's stopping him? I could be wrong. I haven't like thought about it too long, but it doesn't seem crazy to me that Naruto should be able to just like stomp everyone if he wanted to. I mean, eventually enough people, you know, if you get like Shikamaru together to put together some strategy, and maybe like the whole Nara clan manages to bind him with shadow possession or something like that, there are probably ways that you could take him down, but it would be a high difficulty situation, right? So, is that kind of what you're talking about? Let's see. I find that dubious as a country wouldn't fire their entire arsenal on a guy, especially if they're fighting in their country. They'll just be terrible for the environment and all bad. Yeah, that's an interesting idea too. I think the Raikage, you know, during the war, was willing to kill Naruto if it meant saving everybody, and he was willing to blow up the moon in the last. So I think there are definitely certain like danger protocols where things just get so risky if they're left unchecked. And part of being a shinobi is about being willing to make the sacrifice, you know, and being willing to steel yourself to difficult outcomes and put the village and the people first. So I think there are definitely people who would be willing to do that. And if Itachi was willing to essentially kill his quote-unquote village in order to protect the larger quote-unquote world, just to use a metaphor, yeah, I don't think that, you know, if the Raikage had a choice between destroying his whole village with a chakra cannon versus losing the war, I think he would probably do it. I think he'd be willing to make the sacrifice. He wouldn't be happy about it, but he'd say that it was part of his shinobi duty or something like that. I gotta check out solo leveling. People keep mentioning it as a lot of fun. Let's see. Sari's opponent says the one jock's going to kill people in their country. Yeah, for sure. And so I guess it's a matter of who is willing to make that kind of difficult choice. Oh yeah, thank you for the reciprocation of the happy pride. I really appreciate it. Honestly, a lot of people in the community have been, overall positive, especially in like Sage's server and like people that I've talked to. Just a couple of outliers, but then some of the other servers are just like, okay, like I can't be here. Like clearly I'm not wanted here. That's fine. Um, Media discussion is a conversation. Yes, 100%. Omnibomni says, I understand that. I think the usage of slurs is too much when it comes to debates and community in general. I like to be rough and toxic with my friends. I like fighting both physically and verbally, but it has to be with consent. Yeah, 100% agree. I think I mentioned this on stream before that, like, a couple of my friends, this is maybe a little cringe, but like when I was in middle school or high school, I forget, some of us sometimes when we'd be sitting around, like hanging around, playing on the computers or whatever, somebody else would come up and like punch one of us on the arm and be like, hey, what's up, pussy? Like, get in the car, loser, like that kind of stuff. If it's within a group of friends, and you're just kind of like ribbing each other, that's totally fine. It might be weird to me, and I do want to say that there is always the risk that somebody could get hurt by that. Like somebody doesn't like it and they're just kind of grinning and bearing it because they think, oh, this is what I have to do to be part of the group, right? So I think it's important to just check in with each other and make sure that nobody's just sort of pretending to to endure it just to fit in, right? Just make sure that everybody's doing okay. But yeah, as long as there's consent, and just have fun with it. Like you can fuck with each other. That's not a problem. And ultimately, I think I understood that better after talking to Six when he reached out. Like, shout out again, like props to Six for being so gentlemanly, for lack of a better word, about all that. But yeah, like I think I still don't really love the TikTok interactions, but as far as the like quote unquote gay jokes in the server, now I think I get it more. It's just like, internal joking and releasing tension together. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't seem really hostile to me. Just think it's worth being careful in case somebody does get hurt. Just like keep an ear to the ground, check in with people, see how they're doing, make sure that nobody feels like targeted. But I also don't think it's my place really to go and tell people how they can and can't act with their friends unless I have like very solid evidence that somebody's being abused. And like, how do I even know that? So I don't know. I want everybody to just like be okay. It sucks to get bullied and shit. It sucks to feel like because of who or what you are, you're constantly on guard for some like where the next punch is coming from. As long as that's not happening, then I have no objections. So it sounds like you guys have a pretty wholesome like situation, and that's great. Let's see. Sorry says, I say it's not off topic. It's men's mental health awareness and Pride Month. This stuff is important to talk about. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to kind of connect about it as well, so I'm just not screaming into the void, so to speak. Anyway, Omni says, I was once in Splash's server and left because whenever I was trying to argue that one of my higher-ups were wrong, even though it was just scaling, the response was toxic and not engaging my argument. Yeah, I mean, again, if you both decide to get into the ring with one another, I used to like train at a boxing gym, and just like Naruto and the rest of Team 7 versus Kakashi in the bell test, they had to come at him with killing intent in order to pass that test and in order to make that fight meaningful, right? They didn't really want to kill him, but they had to sort of act like they did in order to be able to have the experience. And so sometimes you get in the ring with somebody and you're like, okay, I'm not going to hold back, right? We're going at each other. One of us, if not both of us, are going to leave bloody, and then we'll shake hands later, right? And that's totally fine. But if it just like spills out of there and like, you're getting constantly harassed and like poked and prodded and whatever when you're just trying to do your workouts, you're not in the ring, you didn't ask for that, then it's like, okay, what the fuck is this? Is this boxing gym, for just to use that that metaphor a little bit more, So it just seems a little unfortunate. Omni says, as a Christian myself, I believe in redemption. Yeah, I do too, for the record. And I hope Seth is actually being truthful about having a change, but I kind of doubt it, and I'm afraid that he's just using it as a scapegoat. Honestly, yeah, like I was thinking about this earlier, talking about, not about Seth specifically, but about like, in my industry, in the games industry, unfortunately, sadly, there's a lot of workplace harassment. And you might know the Elder Scrolls series like Skyrim. I fucking love the Skyrim soundtrack. It's one of my favorite game soundtracks. It was composed by a dude named Jeremy Soule, and Jeremy unfortunately got up to some shady stuff involving sexual harassment. Now, basically he was canceled. I don't think he'll work in the industry again, at least not under his main name. He'll have to use a fake name or something like that, like a doing business as or something. And I think personally, there's a part of me that wants to say, you know what? When people do something shitty, they should go and make it up somehow. and then once they've made it up, they should be allowed to come back in and try again. Because I don't like the idea of like infinite punishment for finite crimes, right? But at the same time, I don't know what that is. And if the sexual harassment stuff that you do as a person winds up ruining someone else's life, then how do you actually make that right? Like, you're not going to undo that. You're not going to fix that. So what is the correct response to that? And I don't know. The thought of Jeremy Soule like working, I don't know, in construction the rest of his life and never composing ever again. Not that there's anything wrong with construction. It's a great vocation, but like, you know, he doesn't ever get to do the thing that he loves ever again. That seems sad. That seems too much, but maybe it's not. So my headcanon here, my personal opinion is, yes, there should be a redemption arc. There should be a way for anybody to reform. I don't think it's my place to say if, you know, I think the victims probably should have more say than me in determining like when he gets to come back in. But I think there should be some sort of path to redemption. Like, I think everybody deserves a chance to like fix the things that they did wrong and to find a way to contribute. And I want very, very selfishly, I want to hear another one of his soundtracks. So I hope he does find a way. But if he comes back and immediately starts doing the same shit, then, like, you know, put him on an island somewhere, right? Like, he has to actually demonstrate that he understands what he did wrong and he cares and he feels bad. Like Louis C.K., right? Louis C.K. had a weird case. And then he responded by saying, hey, everybody, this is usually when, like, the men who are doing the creepy things try to deflect and try to make excuses and try to drown out the voices of the women that have been affected adversely by this. I'm not going to do that. You shouldn't listen to me. I have nothing important to say. Listen to the women. I'm going away for a while. And then he went away. He shut the fuck up. He went away. He apologized. And then he came back and then he started again. And as far as I can tell, his like arc seemed sincere. And as long as there's no more skeezy behavior, I don't have a problem going to see one of his shows or supporting him. Maybe I should. Maybe that's too generous, but I'd like to think that people can actually fix their shit and get better over time. But again, if he comes out and the first set that he does is just like, you know, complaining about the Me Too movement, then I'm like, okay, well, fuck this guy. Sorry. Anyway. On Naruto stream talking about harassment in the workplace. But you're right, sorry, it's important to talk about this stuff, especially mental health month and stuff like that, you know. Let's see. But yeah, redemption arc, I'm all for it. He does seem genuinely interested in arguments for Christianity. Interesting. Oh, so Seth is so Seth is a Christian. Interesting. So maybe I have doubts, though, it may simply be the aesthetic of being able to be absolved of previous wrongdoings. I mean, like, if that winds up being his path to redemption, he can find some peace with that. I hope that he does so. I haven't really investigated his streams in all that great of a depth, or anything like that. I don't even know if he streams on YouTube. My objection is just like with the recent videos that he's done, he has this approach, in my opinion, which can be challenged, of course, where he'll submit a piece of evidence, so to speak, and then he'll say, yeah, and if you don't agree with this, you're just being skeptical, and honestly, you're coping, and honestly, like, you're just being unreasonable. And so it's the same narrative of, I'm right because I said I am, and if you say I'm not, then you're wrong because you are. And I think Noodles basically picked that up and ran with it, and that's what he's been babbling about for the past few days, going onto people's servers and stuff. So I'm not a fan of that. I don't think that demonstrates that you care about your relationship with the community if you're just going to show up, declare yourself to be correct, and then discourage any discourse. I think that's dumb and bad. So to me, that's not commensurate with I want to reform and I want to help and I want to make things right. But that's only me saying this based on a tiny portion of his content that I've seen. Frankly, I found that stuff so fucking obnoxious that I couldn't really bring it upon myself to spend much time elsewhere. I think I asked somebody in Sage's server to link me to their like best Seth video, and I listened to it and I'm like, yep, it's the same shit. So I don't know. I hope to be proven wrong. I don't want to be right about people being crappy. Like, I would rather be wrong about everything I said. I would love to start my next stream with a massive fucking retraction and be wrong about this because I want people to just be nice to each other, but I sadly haven't seen that happen yet. So anyway, Luan Jax. Oh, okay, no problem. Omni says, well, in my friend group, we do ask each other if they're okay. Okay, that's wonderful to hear, you. Especially whether somebody themselves felt they may have crossed the line. That's great. Yeah, screaming into the void. Maybe one day we'll do a metal vocal stream or something. Omni says, we also made sure to make it clear when a certain topic is not something to be touched for that person or type of teasing. That, yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Omni said he converted to Christianity after the whole scandal and after he went through some lockdown therapy. Oh, I think I understand. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I mean, I hope that works out. Hope that works out for him. Yeah. I don't follow a religion myself, but I have friends who have become more religious after difficult times, and I will say that it definitely seemed to help them a lot, and they grew as a person, which is challenging to me as an atheist because, you know, I would like to think that, you know, not to offend anybody here, but I would like to think that you don't need religion in order to bolster yourself after tragedy or trauma. I think you can find other ways around it. But the reality of the matter is, whatever my opinion is that I have seen people go through difficult times, become more religious, and then use that to help themselves. So there's something there that I have to acknowledge, right? So hopefully he'll do that. That's what I want to see. I want to see people, you know, getting over their shit and getting along and, you know, challenging each other, but not discouraging each other from participating. It's a very different thing. The one Jack says, honestly, Seth's videos are like a little hard to wrap your head around. Okay, yeah, if there's a video that you'd like me to recommend, I'd be happy to check it out either on stream or just sort of independently, like on my own, and get back to you. I do want to talk about his multiversal Naruto stream, because I think that'll be, or video they did with Noodles, because obviously that's relevant to what we've talked about. And then we can talk about his Itachi, you know, versus Pain 1, or the Itachi solos, the verse or whatever, that he put out recently with Noodles again. I can't get away from the fucker. But if you have another video of his, I'd be happy to kind of try to break it down. I do think sometimes he, you know, he'll throw out stuff like, and we all know that the Raikage, or Naruto's 72 times faster than the Raikage, and the Raikage is like faster than light, and so like he'll throw out little figures and terms like that and then not really cite his sources. And I think the impression that he's hoping to create is one of, oh wow, this guy sure knows all kinds of facts and numbers and stuff, he must be right, which I've fallen for in the past, I'm not gonna lie. And ultimately though, like when you break it down, it doesn't really hold up, or at the very least there's some dissenting opinions. Did you actually answer my nuclear question? I think I did, but I'm not sure, because I'm not sure I still fully understand the question. Let me try again, and let me know if I get it right this time. So you're asking if, like, how do I feel about the argument that it's okay to nuke your country in order to save the world? Is that what you're asking? I'm sorry. I actually don't know if I understood your point. Let me scroll back up and read this. How do you feel about the government can't do anything scaling? Like, I find it hard to believe that a country would fire their entire nuclear arsenal to kill one guy. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I tried to give a couple examples. I think I might have just misunderstood your question. So, like, let's take Itachi in part 1, right? Itachi, let's say he was able to kill off the entire village all on his own. Are you saying that, like, the fact that the village didn't track him down, are you saying it wouldn't be fair for me to say, fuck, sorry, this is clearly more convoluted. Okay, so like Itachi, somebody makes the claim Itachi is over the village, and then somebody else says, no, the village, you know, if they tracked him down and they fought him, they would win. And then and the only reason why that hasn't happened yet is because they can't afford to put all of their resources into one person. So yes, Itachi scales below the village. The only reason why he's still alive is because of, like, logistics. Is that kind of what you're saying? If that's the case, I would say that it's an interesting it's an interesting start of a conversation, but I think you'd need to actually break down like which people in the village are going to do what to Itachi and vice versa, right? I think it really depends on the context. So yeah, could you give me like a more specific example? I think my brain is just like, for whatever reason, like I'm having a brain flop and I'm not quite understanding. Sorry to make you repeat yourself. 40 universal mind hack. Yeah. I'm not even gonna get into that. I mean, like, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. You've heard me complain about that enough. Saria says, aren't Seth's videos just subs paying him saying what they want to hear? I don't know. The only one that it wouldn't be surprising to me. I know, according to him, he got paid a lot of money to do the multiversal video. And in the very brief clips of streams of his that I've seen, people are like throwing money at him, just like crazy amounts. So I think so, probably, but I don't honestly know which ones he's doing just out of fun and which ones he's doing out of commission. Either way, you know, I think the content should be genuine. If you didn't get paid for it, or if you get paid $1 million for it, you should just try to do a good job. But anyway. Omni says, I agree it's certainly possible to get better and better oneself as a person without religion. For me, it's more so that I think my religion is true, not so much the culture and whatnot. Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, if you have like a genuinely held belief and that helps motivate you and helps guide you in life, I think there's something very beautiful about that, honestly. My only concern, not to start a religious debate, but my only concern is that like I personally have problems with like religious institutions, and sometimes I fear that religious institutions and try to create a monopoly where they say you can only get real love from Jesus. Like only Jesus will ever really love you. Nothing in life will ever be meaningful in the way that serving Jesus will be, etc., etc. Again, not to call you out, I just happened to hear this argument recently. And so I worry about like the potential for people to get exploited if there are organizations saying, hey, you can't really trust anybody but us and nobody loves you except us, you know, that sort of thing, right? But people who have like personal relationships with the divine, yeah, I know people that's like transformed their lives for the better. So, you know. Anyway, I agree that it's certainly possible. Oh yeah, someone says videos are paid video topic ideas. Doesn't mean he's going with the takes the payer has. Oh, I see. Okay. And other videos are just something that he felt like making. That makes sense. It makes sense to do kind of a mix of things. It's a good business practice, right? Omni says, I'm pretty sure nearly all the IRL stuff is out of his own interest. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. I mean, considering the amount of time and effort that it requires to make a video like that, any video, and his Itachi video recently was very well edited, at least, you know, it had nice crisp animations and flowing, what do you call it? Yeah, transitions and everything, you know, good colors setup and saturation and stuff. So, kind of sucks that he didn't credit his editor, but they did a good job. So hopefully they unless it's him, unless he edited it himself and he was just being coy about that in the comments. I don't fucking know. See, that's the problem when you're sarcastic all the fucking time. Then it becomes kind of hard for people to know when you're sincere ever. So whatever. Hopefully if it's him, good job. He's a great editor. I can give him that much at least. If it's not him, I hope the motherfucker got paid and got good exposure because they did a good job and they deserve more work. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Okay, Luan Jack says, I'm saying that if the village had hypothetical bombs, could you say that they scale to the whole explosive yield of the bombs? That the village... Oh, I see. Well, it's tricky, right? Because I think yes and no, which is a stupid answer. But, like, it really depends on your terms, right? So, like, let's say I am fighting against a Dragon Ball character or whatever. I don't have a device. I don't have the ability to do a ki blast myself. Say I'm fighting against Raditz or whatever in part 1. But what I do have, somebody gives me this backpack. And the backpack has like a missile launcher on it, right? And I have a button in my hand. And if I press the button in my hand, the missile launcher will fire at Raditz and it'll kill him. So is it fair to say that I have Raditz level AP or DC? And I think yes and no are both valid answers depending on the context. Because on the one hand, it's not really coming from myself. I'm not generating that energy, and I can't do that just on my own. In which case, no would be the correct answer, right? Like, it's not me. I'm not generating the energy. However, if you're talking about, like, two fighters fighting, And on the one hand, you have Raditz, and on the other hand, you have John. And John's combat kit includes an anti-Raditz missile. Then that is part of like if you're choosing a fighter on in a fighting game, you might see plenty of characters who have like gadgets or mecha suits, or like Diva, right? Diva from, if you've played Overwatch, or any character in any anime ever that's ever gone inside a mech, right? Is the person's AP and DC their individual thing as a human being, what's counted in their fights, or are they counting like the AP and DC of them inside the mecha? And it really depends on the terms of the fight. I think that once the fight starts, you should consider the AP and DC of the people with all their gear and kit and everything like that. So in your example, I think that yes, as long as it's a tool that can be used meaningfully in combat, then their practical, I'll just invent that term, right? Practical AP or DC scales to nuclear. But if we're talking about like no prep time, no gadgets or whatever, then it would just be whatever they are normally, if that makes sense. So again, I think it comes down to interpretation, and really it's just a matter of deciding the terms of like what exactly you mean, right? I think both are okay answers. Somebody says, I agree, I don't like a lot of the discourse of religious institutions. Yeah, I feel the same way. Is it fair to say that the bombs, asked Luan Jax, that the... Sorry, let me try that again. Is it fair to say that the bomb's entire explosive yield, let's say country level, would scale to Itachi in this case because the village can do nothing to stop him? Oh, I see. So, fuck, I don't know why I'm struggling with this. I apologize. So you're saying, like, put the entire explosive output of the bomb, of all the bombs that they all have, onto Itachi, because the village can't stop him. Oh, fuck. Well, no, I think that they're two separate things. If I'm understanding it correctly, because on the one hand, you have all the villagers individually. And if you're talking about what is their actual, literal, practical combat utility, AP, DC, you're just going through all of the things that they can do as individuals and then kind of like summing them, like putting them together, right? But on the other hand, if you then give them this additional ability, then again, like if that becomes part of their practical kit, the things that they can do, that's fine. But that is technically separate from their base abilities, right? Like, I guess another example, I was playing Halo recently, and in one level, the Master Chief, the main character, gets access to this thing called a target laser. And it's literally just like a laser pointer, and if you paint it at something, a satellite from orbit, like, charges this massive laser blast and just, like, totally destroys something right in front of you. It can rip apart tanks, it can rip apart, like, structures and stuff like that. So is it fair to say that the Master Chief has, let's just say that that's, like, I don't know, mountain level AP, right? Does he have mountain level AP? Yeah, because he has this device that he can use whenever he wants, and then it causes this thing to happen. But no, because it's not really him, right? So does the village itself scale to Itachi? Yeah, because if you take the village together as a monolith, as a single entity, then the explosive output of the village, quote unquote, like the entire village, is enough to kill him. But if by the village you mean the combined, like, just shinobi forces on their own, like the people, then no. So it really just depends on how you look at it. Hopefully that kind of answers your question. I know it's a little convoluted, but yeah, I think I get what you're saying. Okay, so in the second here, I'm going to start talking about Jiraiya, but I've been loving the conversation, genuinely, and I'm happy to keep kind of going on tangents or talking about more stuff if you like. Okay. So, to let's see, we're at 1 hour and 6 minutes. Okay, good. So, yeah, to kind of recoup what I was saying before, or recap rather, really I just want to quickly skim over the Jiraiya fight, and then I want to talk about the Pain versus Naruto fight. And I want to just look at things that I might have missed before and talk about the public perception, so to speak, of this fight, and try to provide some insight and see what I discover. So, for example, Starting off at chapter 374, I'm using Weeb Central as my source of scans. And one of the first things that we see that I never noticed before is that Jiraiya uses this technique on Pain's crustacean summon, which he calls the Art of the Raging Lion's Mane. And I figured it was just like a reference to his hair being, you know, like that of a lion. But there's actually this interesting little beat over here, which I never noticed before. I don't know how I never noticed it. It's actually pretty obvious. You can see what appears to be like the snout of a dog and little nose over here, I guess of a lion, but it looks more canine to me. And then the teeth and the fangs and all that, and they're kind of coming up to actually bite on to the animal path over here and restrain him. I actually always thought that he was just kind of getting wrapped up in the tendril, so to speak. But he is a little bit more to it than that. I think there's actually some pressure that's being applied to him from the jaws. Just a nice little detail that I never noticed before. So things like that are what I'm looking out for. You can kind of see like how much detail and intricacy there is in the piping work over here, which makes sense because these large buildings that are constantly getting rained on, they'll have to have like very effective plumbing and drainage and all that. Let's see. It answered my question partially, says the one Jax, but it's a little hard to explain this thing in words. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not quite getting it. Maybe could you try a different example of like different Naruto characters, if that would be helpful? Omnibumly says, so I looked a bit into the Godry calc, and unfortunately isn't very thorough. Oh, that's a shame. Firstly, the height seems to be a highball in the calc, and the tree is apparently nearly 4 times shorter. Oh, I see. Also doesn't take into account the roots reaching everyone on the planet. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Do you enjoy building calcs and doing that sort of stuff yourself? I mean, would you want to kind of expand on it and look into it on your own? If not, I'm sorry. I don't always remember which servers everybody's in. If you're in Sage's server, you might ask in the calcs channel to see what people think. I've gotten really fast and really interesting responses from people there. I'm sure there's other places. I know there's a Naruto power scaling Reddit, but I also think there is a power scaling calcs Reddit. I just can't remember, or subreddit. I can't remember what it's called specifically. But anyway, let's see. I don't think actually. I love this panel here because the when Pain is saying I have moved towards the divine, it's kind of interesting that we get his face is like no longer in the frame as opposed to just like showing him. He is actually removed and we don't actually see him, but what we do see is this image of these ascending pipes that seem to be like leading up towards the sky, which I think lines up very nicely with the phrase towards the divine. But also it reminds me a little bit of like the Tower of Babel or something like that, because these are artificial structures, right? These are like metallic cylinders that are kind of wrapped with cloth, or maybe these are just like metal rivets or something like that, that are something that you wouldn't necessarily see as divine. They're kind of grimy. They're kind of like, not rusty, but you know, they're very primitive and artificial. And it's interesting that we get the juxtaposition of these sort of primitive artificial things with the concept of divinity. But also, I wonder if there's meant to be a little bit of a visual parallel between these things and between the chakra rods. You know, maybe I'm just looking at the similar shapes, you know, pictures and patterns, and I'm kind of projecting. But I like the idea that the sort of cylinders are being used as an artificial signifier of divinity. And you could potentially argue that the like ripple imagery in Pain's eyes, like the Rinnegan's eyes, is kind of echoed with the like the ripples and circles again, and also like they kind of look like concentric circles when a bit of water, you know, like a water droplet drops into some still water. They have this kind of like ripple pattern to it. So to me, I think Kishimoto is trying to establish a sense of like visual parallel, and as well as narrative parallel between scenes like this. And even if you think everything I'm saying is crazy, that's totally fine. This is what it's going to be like when I do the Dark Souls 2 stream, right? This isn't like me dictating what you need to believe, but it is saying that I think try this on for size at some point. Try to apply this kind of interpretation as you're reading through, and see what kind of theories and ideas that you can come up with along these lines, if that makes sense. Let's see. Omnibomber says how long it took to grow obviously has an impact. Yep, absolutely. If you assume 1 minute and take into account the size being 4 times smaller, my guess is it'd be multi-continental, maybe moon level. That makes sense. I don't know actually if it would make, like, how much difference it would make, because when you talk about the amount of energy required to grow a tree, you have to figure that it would be a product of the amount of energy that it takes to, like, expand and solidify the individual the the limbs and the roots and the trunk of the tree and all that. And I'm not sure that seems to me to involve some sort of like a biological energy calc, right? Like, I have no idea how to even get started on that. Like, how much energy does a tree need to ingest from its food source in order to grow, like a redwood, right? In order to grow to full height? How many calories does it require to put on that mass to bulk up over the course of however many years? I think that would be, and I think basically what we're seeing would then be like a sped up time lapse almost of that. So I'm not sure if the speed itself, well, I mean, like, force equals mass times acceleration, and like obviously the amount of motion that is occurring to displace the rocks and stuff like that around the planet, sure. It's interesting. I have no idea how to calculate energy output from heat emitting living things. Do trees even emit heat via their, like, internal... Fuck, I don't know anything about tree biology, really. Or energy exchange. Photosynthesis, obviously, but I'm assuming that the cells in trees also use something analogous to ATP. Okay, next time we're doing a botany stream. We'll get this calc sorted out. I'm gonna be amateur arborists on here. Oh yeah, the energy for cellular copulating, for that thing. Yes, I agree. I have no idea how to do that either. I'm sorry. Did you say 6 or say? Oh, I meant to say sage of thick calves. I get the names mixed up. I think it might be a good idea to talk to them. I think this requires some physics knowledge that is beyond what I've been taught. Yeah, for sure. I don't know how the Discord links are usually given out. I saw one of Sage's streams and there was a Discord link there, and that's how I went. So I'll give him a little cross promotion if you haven't already. If you're not already in the server, check out Sage of Thick Calves and check out his lives. And I think even in his more recent videos, there should be a link to the Discord. And jump in. It's very, for the most part, very friendly, very supportive community, especially if you go to like the translations channel or the like the other sub channels for calcs and stuff like that. Yeah, there are a couple people who show up to troll and cause a scene, but I mean, that's not the majority of the people there. The majority of the people there are super cool. Saria's in there, and like, she's fucking awesome. So and then, like, I think I mentioned in previous streams that I've gotten translations done. That phrasing makes it sound like I did any amount of work. Really, I just, like, I came up with my little bowl and asked, like, please, sir, can I have a translation? And, like, they gave it to me immediately. So, yeah, they're super cool. Acolytes something. I forget the second part of their name. And then Acolytes Revenge, something like that. And then, Hobbs and Anime Drip and a bunch of other cool people whose names I can't remember because they're too cool for me to remember. But yeah, there's good folks there. Let's see. One Jack says, let's say we have Kakashi who stated to have the power of a hidden leaf personified. Okay, sure. He also says he can do anything he wants because the Leaf Village can't stop him in any way, so it's consistent. Okay, so Kakashi is super powerful, and he thinks he's so powerful that the Leaf can't do anything to stop him. In this scenario, the Leaf has their own military force and has the Bijou that can launch a country-level bomb. If there's nothing the village can do to stop him. Oh, I see. So, is it fair to say that Kakashi is above or equal to the entire force of the Leaf, including bombs, which could potentially destroy the village or country if they were to clash? Kakashi thinks he's above the whole village, and the village can't do anything to stop him. The Leaf does have a military, and also has the Bijou, and so they're all country, and the Bijou has country level, so they have a country level weapon, and there's nothing that they can do to stop him. Is it fair to say that Kakashi is above to equal the entire force to leave, including the bombs? Yeah, that sounds a little circular, if I'm understanding it correctly. It seems like you're saying Kakashi is stronger than anybody in the village, and he also is unable to be... Oh, wait a minute. You're saying that he has, like, equivalent power of the entire village, including their additional weapons. So he's equal to above the entire force to leave. Yeah, I think so. I think basically what you've described is I feel like I'm still not getting something, but it kind of sounds like you have described it adequately. Kakashi is as strong as the whole village, including their bombs. Therefore, as long as there's evidence for that, then sure. Yeah. If they were to clash. Oh, or are you saying Kakashi is as strong as the Leaf, but the Leaf has a weapon that could destroy the Leaf, and so it could potentially also destroy Kakashi? So, like, Kakashi is relative to the Leaf Village, but the Leaf Village then also has this bomb. But you're saying including the bombs. Then, yeah, I would just say that they're relative. I think that makes sense. Your description makes them sound relative. Hopefully that's fair. Omnibomni says, no, I did calculate the energy for cell copying when we know that the kinetic energy is 1/2 mv squared. The time it took is irrelevant. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Sorry. Let's see. Saria says, anyone remember when those images would go around talking about Pain and Naruto being brothers because they have the same haircut? No, I've never seen those. They sound really funny, though. Unsurprisingly, it surprised me. I don't know. I was trying to look up pictures of Naruto characters with a pride flag hugging and hanging out. And because I'm dumb and apparently I've never used the internet before, I just typed gay Naruto into Google. And I was surprised, but also not surprised at just how many very enthusiastic results came up. So, did not click on them. I clicked on the ones that you saw in the images section. With Naruto and Sasuke hugging. But there was also there's actually quite a lot of pictures of Naruto and Sasuke like going out on dates and like giving each other little freezy pops or like sharing ramen together. Honestly, like there wasn't really any ecchi stuff that came up. It was just like I searched gay Naruto and clicked the image, and then I was like, wait. I'm gonna be very fucking clear about what I'm looking for here. But then, you know, the Google image search results was like just a bunch of like wholesome, for the most part, a bunch of wholesome stuff of like Naruto and Sasuke going on little dates and being cute. So I think I saw Nagato also trying to like worm his way into a throuple in one of them. So the one Jack said, I'm suggesting they use the equivalent of the village, but there's a lot of logistics that come with the village, using the bombs like the possibility of destroying the entire village. Oh, yeah. I mean, like, when it comes to the overall logistics of a fight, I do think that terrain and, whatchamacallit, I lost my train of thought. Thinking about Naruto and Sasuke on dates. I think that like terrain and environmental factors and stuff like that make a huge difference. I mean, like even in this fight with Jiraiya and Nagato and all that, I consistently hear people say that the like fighting in the Rain Village prevented Pain from using Shinra Tensei and Bancho Tenin and Chibaku Tensei especially the way that he might have otherwise. So they use that, and I would agree, I think, they use that as evidence that Pain was holding back over the course of this fight. I think that's totally fair. And yeah, like fighting in the Leaf Village, I think this is something that happens a lot in Dragon Ball as well, where the characters will just kind of agree to go and fight in some big empty field or wasteland. And honestly, I think it's a little bit of a plot contrivance, or like a plot convenience at least, where I don't know if you've read Dragon Ball, but there's a whole sequence where Cell, when he first shows up, um, is attacking people in a city, and the main characters are finding it very difficult to locate him because he's like dashing around, he's hiding between buildings and stuff. And then later, another character, they're in a mountain range, and the character's kind of dashing in and out of like these crevasses in the mountains, and like poking out of holes and stuff like that. So terrain and logistics can make a huge difference. And it's something that, unfortunately, just because of how fucking hard and time consuming it is to draw this shit, a lot of people, or I think sometimes mangaka will just clear the playing field and let people fight in open areas. I think Versus Battles Wiki, in their default standard battle assumptions, they literally just say like Central Park, New York City. Like if you are having a VS battle with someone and it's using VSB rules and nobody says this is where they're fighting or how they're fighting, it's assumed to be in Central Park. Because there's like big open spaces, but there's also places where people can go hide, and then there's the urban wasteland, or wasteland. Sorry, New York City people. There's the urban sprawl behind them, right? So there's a mix of different tactical locations, and when you consider all the narrative and like social implications, or whatever you want to call them, of fighting in the village, then yeah, I think there's a good reason to kind of keep that in mind. Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm sorry, I feel like I haven't quite answered your question adequately, but I'd be happy to talk to you more about it. I forget, are you on the Discord? Would you like me to reach out and, like, if you search for my name on Discord, you are welcome to add me as a friend. I'd be more than happy to. And then feel free to send me a PM or whatever, and I'd be happy to talk to you directly about any of this stuff. Oh yeah, I just saw what you sent. Sorry. I mean, they're both Uzumaki, right? So they could be cousins. They might actually literally be cousins. Yeah. Alrighty. Yeah, totally happy to keep that conversation going, man. Let's see. Random off-topic question asks Omni. What, Star Wars one of your interests? Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you're on Sage's server, the one. Okay. Again, sorry, I don't always do a good job of keeping track of people's usernames, so sorry if I just like totally had a brain flop on that one. I didn't and I'm trying to do my best to remember everybody's names. Saria in particular has gotten very creative with the renaming, so I think I've finally kept up with you. At this point, although it is very distinctive as well. So anyway, Star Wars, yeah, it's definitely one of my interests. I don't have that deep a knowledge of it, especially since the universe keeps on expanding. But growing up, I played the Jedi Academy and Jedi Knight games. I love those. Like, one of the first video games I ever played, it was at my friend's house. We were playing whatever the X-Wing game was on Nintendo 64. It's like one of my earlier video games thing that like changed my life. That shit was amazing. I think that despite all of its quirks, the Return of the Jedi is not Return of the Jedi. Well, that too, but The Empire Strikes Back is like an incredible movie. The way that they built out their world and established their universe, both visually and thematically and everything, all of the iconography that they put together, all of the character tropes and designs and everything that they established is amazing. Like how iconic everything is. And I think there's been some genuinely incredible properties that have spun off and come out of Star Wars recently. I fucking loved The Mandalorian, especially season 1, season 2 as well. I think there was a third one, right? I think no spoilers, but there was a point where the story kind of seemed like it was over, and it had a really, really good conclusion. And then there was another season, and it kept going, and I was like, I mean, okay. And that particular season, there was good stuff in it, but I was also like, yeah, well, I mean, okay, yeah, okay. Like, it already ended, and that was fine. Or I haven't seen season 2, but I saw season 1, and it was really good. I love that shit. I love the sound effects, man. Like Ben Burt as a sound designer is one of like the big three that, along with Gary Rydstrom and fuck, who's I always forget the third guy's name. But there were, yeah, three sound designers who worked on like those titles, like on a lot of like early movies and doing pioneering sound design. And so like my interest in audio comes from the work of like Gary Rydstrom and Ben Burt and that one other person who I'm so sorry I'm forgetting your name, because you're totally watching Naruto streams on a Sunday after designing all the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. But anyway, yeah, that was it was such an amazing and revolutionary universe when it came out, and it has such a powerful grasp on pop culture. It'd be weird to not like it at least a little bit, but I couldn't tell you whether, Prime Darth Maul would beat Prime Vader or anything like that. Like, I don't have any scaling knowledge. But I'd be like, well, they both got laser swords, so they're evenly matched. That's all I can tell you. Oh, wait, no. Darth Maul has two... Oh, so Darth Maul has two swords in his sword. And Dark Vader has one only sword in his sword. So I think Darth Maul would probably beat him because he has two swords. That's the extent of my like Star Wars scaling knowledge. But I'd be happy to learn more about it. Sorry, it says, John, this is something I always say when people talk about Superman destroying the city in his fights. Like, I'm sorry that Darkseid isn't being a sweetie pie and agreeing to leave the innocents out of it. Yes. I mean, wasn't that the whole thing in like the recent Zack Snyder verse? Is that when that first Superman movie came out, he just like destroyed the city and didn't give a shit who he was hurting, and people were like, "Oh, he's going dark now. Like now he's more gritty. He doesn't care. He's gonna get the job done." I'm like, that's Batman. Like what? Isn't he supposed to be a hero? I don't know. I haven't seen those movies, but that's what I heard about them. Oh yeah, you said you're in Sage's server, right? Yeah, that's totally fine. I didn't talk much there for like the first 2 months that I was there, and then I don't know. I think I asked for a translation, and then I got into a conversation with somebody, and it was great. But yeah, I always start off by lurking for a long time. If you ever want to discuss scaling for Star Wars or anything like that, I would love to. It's the field I have the most depth knowledge of. Honestly, yeah, you could probably educate me. I'd be happy to talk about it. I'm probably not going to be able to impress you with my knowledge in any way, but I could talk about like the visuals and the narrative and the character development and world building and the audio and stuff. And you could teach me about the power scaling. I've heard that like Prime Vader is basically like, I've heard people say that he would like sweep the Naruto verse like no problem. Like I don't know, maybe he couldn't force push an expansive truth seeker orb away, but at the end of the day, like yeah, probably the reputation that he has is very high in terms of being able to like go through the verse and clean up. Yeah, it's currently 7:30 here, so I understand if people need to head out or it's getting late or anything like that. Sorry I couldn't have the stream a little bit earlier. Lore narrative stuff in general. Yeah, I'm very curious about lore pertaining to the Force, because in the earlier iterations of the series, right, it was always described as this sort of ethereal, almost like religious, esoteric force that you were tapping into. But then they tried to kind of science it up by talking about the midichlorians. But I don't actually know what a midichlorian is, apart from a microscopic organism. Where did they come from? How did they evolve? How are they connected to the Force? Like, I'd be very curious to learn more about that. I'm always really interested in learning about dark, creepy shit lingering at the edge of the universe. So what kind of horrifying creatures or dark forces might be out there? All that stuff. Yeah, I'd totally be down to learn more about that. Oh, Luan Jackson in the same time zone. Cool. Honest, hey, how's it going, Honest? Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you're having a good end to your weekend. Pain is over Jiraiya, absolutely. Yeah, he was, I know some people say that Pain struggled with Jiraiya, but I think it was pretty clear that he was holding back for a variety of reasons. I mean, the most obvious one being that he started off only fighting Jiraiya with one of his paths, and then he didn't use his strongest animal summons consistently, and he had multiple opportunities to kill him. So actually, that's a good kind of springboard point for us to begin talking about this fight. I'm going to go through here and explain why I disagree with the Pain was struggling with Jiraiya fight, or arguments rather. But yeah, bloodlusted Jiraiya a serious Pain in a neutral playing field going all out against Jiraiya to begin with. Jiraiya has no chance, especially if he doesn't find a way to retreat and both get Ma and Pa summoned, and then also to charge up the Frog Song Jutsu. If he's like in an open field or whatever and he can't do those things, then Nagato sees him and pulls him in with the Bancho Tenin. Like, you have to hope that he's able to summon Ma and Pa and then also get a Genjutsu off before he gets within range of Pain. I'm not sure that's going to be happening. Saria says, I've seen people put Vader at like star level in Universal, and I'm like, what? Yeah, I've heard similar things, right? Probably something about using the Force on a larger scale or something like that. Luan Jack says, I'm trying to get lulled to sleep by your voice. Oh, that's honestly kind of a nice compliment. It's kind of working. I'm glad to hear that. Well, I'll try to keep things a little mellow. I won't try to make too many jump scares or anything like that happen. Honestly, I apologize in advance if I wind up like triggering a sound that's loud, but I don't think so. I think we're basically just going to be in this one window tonight, and we're going to be keeping a pretty mellow discussion. I think I got most of my angst out of the way earlier on. So, yeah, I'm glad. I like listening to podcasts and stuff like that. And stand-up comedy as well. It might sound weird, but when I was a kid and I had trouble sleeping, I would put on a CD of stand-up comedy, and by the time it would be over, I would fall asleep. So it's very nice. Sorry, the temptation is there. I'm not gonna lie. Like the little prankster asshole in me, like definitely feels that way. But no, like you told me that you're trying to get to sleep and relax. Like I'm not gonna do that. I'm just now trying to make sure that I don't like accidentally hit my water glass and make like a loud ching in the microphone or anything like that. Omnibomni says, I think the people you've heard Star Wars scaling from might be lacking in their knowledge or taking many statements for literally. Oh, I see. Getting council members to planetary is even hard, but a fine position. Oh, okay. Yeah, I really am just kind of going off of, honestly, I might have had my mind brainwashed a little bit by thumbnails that just, like, I guess Seth style, you'll see a thumbnail with Vader like with a planet in his palm, like crushing it or something, being like, this is a down player or something like that. So, but yeah, I'd be curious to learn more about it. Vader would be in the ballpark of the council members. Okay, that seems reasonable. Luan Jack says the power to destroy a planet is insignificant compared to the Force. Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha. And then John, yeah. Sire says they try using statements that say he's the Empire's strongest weapon, and then say that it's above the oh, okay. Yep, okay. I'm starting to see where this is coming from. But like strongest weapon can mean so many things. Yeah. I mean, okay, so apparently this is the same sort of argumentation that comes up in the Naruto and Power Dragon Ball conversations. Like, how many times have we seen like a statement about Minato being the strongest Hokage? And then a statement about like Toneri or Kaguya, whoever else, being the strongest opponent. And it's like, or I think I remember one that they said like Choji had the greatest war potential or something like that for Konoha. So they were trying to argue that like Choji was stronger than KCM1 Naruto because he had the greatest potential in the war, which isn't even true, like at all. But I think they meant before Naruto got KCM, at that time, Konoha's like greatest asset in dealing with masses of infantry, like low-level infantry, i.e. the White Zetsu, you could have argued that was Choji and or his dad, because they got really big and they do a squish, right? But saying that means he's stronger than fucking KCM Naruto, or even KCM2, who's running around like empowering up everyone on the battlefield, including Choji, maybe not so much. But anyway. Yeah, sorry, it beat me to it. The data books moment, very much so. Yep. And actually, to that point, let's go up a little bit here. And let's talk about this over here, right? So I don't know how it's possible to scale this, but this is the sort of thing where somebody could look at this and be like, okay, let's match this panel up to a map, and then let's like to the Naruto world map, figure out where this goes, and then calculate the radius of this explosion, and then look at like a real world mushroom cloud, assume this is the top of the mushroom cloud, and then try to figure out like how big this landmass is, and then we can get a sense of the scope of what destroying an entire nation actually means in Naruto, and then try to apply that to other things. And then this means that since he's talking about using the Ghetto Mazo with all of the Biju chakra inside of it, that the Ghetto Mazo's DC is this, right? And there's actually kind of an interesting argument buried in there, but it's also like, if you use this to say definitively that the charged up Ghetto Mazo hypothetically is country level, my issue with that would be, you really haven't actually determined the size of this country, right? Some people would look at this and be like, Ghetto Mazo is country, and that's it. And I don't think that's quite enough data, you know what I mean. Let's see. Now, I don't know how useful this would be, but you could potentially look at the interaction between Jiraiya's hair and the bending of the impact on the steel over here, and use that for some sort of calc. But I do like the perspective shift here. Like, I do like the fact that Jiraiya is below Pain, and he's trying to sort of like preach to him and reach up to him. He's pointing, his hair is reaching up. There's a connection between them. It's almost like an umbilical connection between them. But at the end of the day, Pain is above him, and because of his position above him, he's also partially in shadow, gazing down condescendingly upon Jiraiya and all that, while also preaching his plan. So I don't know, I feel like this whole scene is very well constructed. I wonder about this. I do like that they have this little sense of humor thing. You have to think that Jiraiya was planning on killing him at this point, but also very cool usage of the ability here. But this is something I wonder about as well. So back to the going back to part 1, I forget where exactly it's explained, but like substitution jutsu is explained to be an instance of actually, let me see if I can find it. 1 second. I forgot to pull up my notes, because this substitution jutsu is actually kind of crazy when you think about it. Substit, really? I don't have any notes about that. 1 second. I can't believe it. I just wanted to see if I could find, they call it body replacement technique here. Can't remember where it's explained. 374, page 15, that's what we were talking about right here. So, chapter 5, let's see if we can pick it up real quick. Because this is one of those things where I see people using for light speed scaling, or they kind of argue that it breaks the verse a little bit. We'll see. Going all the way back to chapter 5. This is the first time that we see Kakashi use the substitution jutsu. I think it's the first time we've ever seen it in the series. Right? When Sasuke throws kunai at him. Is it? I thought it was mentioned here. Oh, well, he does this substitution as well. That's right. Okay. Trying to find the example. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay, this is what I was looking for. Okay. So, chapter 6. Here is the explanation for how substitution works. It's the third article and the first scroll of ninjutsu. You act with speed and skill to swap places with one of the plants, animals, or people in the landscape. Part of the technique is to make it look as though you've been struck, and in the interval strike back. So like, hang on, that so-called elite shinobi traded places with one of Naruto's doppelgangers. When he was attacked, not only did he create an optical illusion, but he used Naruto's actual attack against him. So Kakashi was here, and Kakashi, if I understand this correctly, the explanation that Sasuke is giving us is that like Naruto was coming at him and he was being held by Naruto. What Kakashi did was he jumped out of Naruto's grasp. Before Naruto even realized what was happening, he went and got one of Naruto's clones, turned Naruto's clones around, brought it back, and put it back into place, and then jumped into the tree in order to get away, right? So he takes an object and then physically goes and swaps it out. Now, I remember somebody saying, I think in one of the data books or something, that like when people do the substitution technique, they actually are moving faster than their shadow. And because you can see here that Kakashi's shadow is on the ground and he does a substitution technique, but his shadow is still there. So the idea is that, okay, this is our evidence for faster than light Naruto stuff. If we take this literally, then yeah, I mean, if you're moving so fast that you're in a new location before your shadow even disappears, then you're moving faster than light, right? But it's weird to think about. I have to spend some more time thinking about this because, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, this kind of breaks my brain a little bit, and the implications for the series are pretty bizarre when you think about what this means, right? That even in part 1, Kakashi was able to pull off this feat. So this is one of the things that I think could be an argument for Lightspeed Naruto, and that's why I need to spend some more time like studying it. When you think about how crazy it is, like what's happening here, Pain, there's no tree anywhere. Like, where did he get this log? Where did he get this cut, sliced through the middle log? And how did he manage to substitute his own body that had already gotten pierced, that was already generating blood, for the log? I think that there might actually be more of an illusory aspect to it, right? Like, he sees this coming, he somehow manages to cast or create an illusion that allows him to make it look like he was pierced, look like there's a log there, but it's actually all part of the ruse. So there must be something else, because otherwise this jutsu is just like one of the most fucking broken things in the whole series, right? Just spawn whatever fucking object. Where the hell did this tree even come from? There's no trees in the Rain Village that I've ever seen. And he just like has a spare log in his back pocket. Why the fuck does he have a chunk of a tree with him? And yes, he does say like, you have a sense of humor, so maybe this is just a joke. But I don't know, it's weird, isn't it? Isn't it kind of like a bizarre thing to happen? Anyway, I'm gonna have to think about that. Control makes you stronger and more efficient on your jutsu better. Oh, hang on. I got a question about chakra and how gaining more of it seems to significantly amp people like Jinchuriki. I've always been confused about how that works, as the series also establishes that chakra control makes you stronger and more efficient on your jutsu better. Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a quick second and go to chapter 90. Chapter 90. And in chapter 90, we have Ebisu providing this explanation to Naruto. We don't have to go through the whole thing, but the gist of it, if you want to reread it, it's here. And the gist of it is that in your body, you can have, or you do have, mental energy and spiritual energy. Or sorry, physical energy and mental energy. Now, physical energy is just the energy that comes from your cells and like your body, right? Mental energy is sometimes called spiritual energy or mental/spiritual energy, and that's more referred to as, you know, all of the accumulated experiences that you and I don't know, life force and stuff that you've accumulated over the course of your life. It's a little bit more wishy-washy, a little bit more esoteric, right? And by combining those two things, your physical energy, your mental energy together, you then produce this thing called stamina. And stamina is basically like a big lump of physical and mental energy. It's a representation of what you as a person are capable of doing in combat. Now, you can take your stamina and put it directly into taijutsu. And basically, that's a direct conversion, right? You don't have to use chakra signs. You don't have to actually do anything in particular. You're just using your energy to make your body do stuff in a normal way. Now, if you want to use something that's based on chakra, first of all, you need to create stamina, and then you have to convert the stamina into a chakra pool. So right now, Lee over here doesn't actually have any chakra prepared. I know it's weird to think about a character as not having any chakra, quote unquote, because there's statements like, if you run out of chakra, you'll die. We could talk about that in a second if there's still some confusion about that. But basically, if Lee wanted to use a technique that required chakra, he'd have to make some, right? And then Naruto over here takes his stamina and he converts it into chakra, but he's not very efficient in creating chakra. So when he takes his stamina, he only is able to produce it a little bit. Like, he doesn't get 100% conversion rate. It's not, he loses some energy in the process. Then he uses signs, and the signs determine what kind of jutsu he'll cast. It could either be a ninjutsu or genjutsu, and his use of the signs as well determines how effective the ability is. So, in other words, your internal energy is determined by your mental and physical energy reserves. You convert that into a stamina pool, and your total battery of energy is called stamina. Then to do a ninjutsu or genjutsu, you have to convert stamina into chakra. The conversion process is determined by how efficient you are, how effective you are, how much control you have. If you have more control, if you're better, if you're more consistent, then you're going to be able to produce more chakra for the same amount of stamina. Then once you have that chakra, you have to turn it into a ninjutsu or genjutsu by using signs. And your ability, skill, technique, talent with those signs, chakra control, etc., is going to determine the efficacy of the genjutsu. So the things that determine it are a larger pool of stamina, more effective conversion, and then more effective execution. There's multiple different steps going from your raw energy to your actual technique output. And at each point in that whole process, if you're more effective, you're more talented, skilled, or whatever, then you get stronger output. And that output could go into enhancing your physicals, enhancing your defense, enhancing your offense, enhancing your genjutsu, etc., right? So I did a very brief summary. There's obviously a whole lot more stuff to go over here. It's kind of dense. We could keep going if you want, but I would encourage you to just read chapter 90 and just go over this on your own time as well. Kind of breaks it down, and this is the most thorough explanation of the power system in the whole series that I've ever found. Okay. Oh yeah, hey Aloha, how's it going? Good to see you. You having a good weekend? I hope everything's going okay on your end. Let's see. Okay, so going back about 2 hours, today I want to talk to you guys about Naruto versus Pain. That's it. Yeah, to summarize, basically the first hour was just catching up and chatting and stuff like that. I would like to talk about Naruto versus Pain today. I basically just picked a low-key topic because I wanted to have fun and kind of go over the fight and talk about some maybe misunderstandings or whatever. We talked a little bit about my opinions on some of the new meta arguments, so to speak, that have come out of the community recently. And also maybe some of it's unfortunate that there's a little bit of hostility in the community, especially around Pride Month and all that I was a little disappointed by. But that's pretty much it. We haven't gotten too deep into the scaling. We're just taking our time, having a kind of a chill stream tonight. But yeah, how's everything going? Hopefully you're doing okay. So Luan Jax, hopefully I actually answered your question again and didn't just talk around you for the past 10 minutes. Sorry says, I have to wonder if someone can make a gravity ball etiquette, what it's called. Oh yeah, I just call it the gravity core, but it's probably fine to just call it gravity ball, yeah. Inside of a clone, and once the clone is destroyed, boom, now you're screwed. Yeah, that would be really cool. In the fight against, is it Fused Momoshiki, or maybe it's against Jigen, I forget, or Ishiki rather, in Boruto, Sasuke uses a Chibaku Tensei by basically spawning the black ball directly on his opponent's head or body, and causes all of the rocks to accumulate together directly on that point. Let me see if I can find it. 1 second. I might get copyright claimed or whatever. Let's see. Is it this one? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I probably just like caused the audio spike to whoever was trying to get to sleep. I'm really sorry about that. And I said I wasn't gonna do it either. I hope they didn't jostle you out too much. Hopefully the volume is not that much. But sorry, retroactive jump scare incoming. Maybe he'll see it in chat for him. There we go. Okay. So this is I guess we'll see who it's up against. This is in Boruto. Damn it, I am sorry. Okay, so it looks like it's against Fused Momoshiki. This would be in the movie. Or not in the movie, in the anime. Right? Actually, you don't really see it all that clearly. Yeah, so he puts his hand out and it's kind of cut off, but you can kind of see that, like, you don't even really see the gravity core there. Like, Momo just kind of gets caught up in it in the middle and it forms around him. But, yeah. What I was trying to establish there was that, yes, you can... I'm so sorry. Did it startle you too much? I'm sorry. I actually feel bad. I have that tendency that once I think of something, I have to go look it up. But I apologize. If I ever have memberships or whatever, I'll give you. That won't help you sleep. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll do a free ASMR reading stream later on to make up for it. How's that? Anyway, yes. So Aloha, hopefully. I totally fucked myself up with that. Okay. Let me get recalibrated over here. What I was trying to say, Saria, is that, yeah, I think there are plenty of creative and cool ways that you could potentially use a Chibaku Tensei core, and we just don't really see it used in those ways. We tend to see it, we only really see it used twice in the series from Nagato, and both of those times he just throws it up in the air. We see Madara use it, he just kind of turns it on and it's done, and then we see Sasuke use it and he just kind of turns it on and it's done, right? He just like, I want there to be fucking 9 Chibaku Tensei now, and then they just are. So, the same way that, like, where the fuck did Madara get 2 meteors from? Don't ask questions, right? Like, the answer is shut up. He just does it because he's Madara. So, what can I say? I think it would be cool to see more uses of it, and yes, I think your idea is really cool. Luan Jack says, obviously I know that you can make stronger techniques like Jiraiya or Sengun, but it's the gaining chakra that'll be explained, specifically 6th path chakra until these chakra goes. Yeah, so I think for 6th path chakra, I think it's literally like Indra and Asura's chakra is clinging to Naruto and Sasuke, and their situation is kind of weird because it's clinging to them beforehand, but then also fuck, I guess like Hagoromo has his own version of chakra and he generates it and he gives some of it to them, and then they have it sitting in their like chakra battery and they can use it to empower different abilities in ways that they couldn't previously. But it also seems like it's not just his chakra, it's not just his energy pool or whatever. It's like he gives them a deeper understanding into the nature of chakra, and he helps awaken abilities in them that they didn't have before. Like, Sasuke just kind of gets the Ame no Minaka, right? Like his ability to switch objects at close ranges. It seems like Hagoromo just gives him the ability to do that, and he just sort of intuitively figures it out pretty quickly. So, it's not just the chakra. It's also it's almost like if you don't have a Kekkei Genkai, and I think actually this is literally the case for Naruto maybe, like if you don't have the Kekkei Genkai, no matter how much you study, you're not going to be able to produce ice chakra like Haku does. But if Haku could come and touch you on the forehead and like give you the Kekkei Genkai, like change your genes so that now you have access to it, then you could kind of figure it out. So I think honestly, like the Sage of 6 Path stuff is more impressive for the insight and the varied abilities that they get, more so than just like the raw energy output of the chakra, if that makes sense. Let's see. Sorry, it says good luck on. Oh, sorry, it says Omnibomni. I'm so sorry. Sometimes the app is picky and doesn't load comments for me. Yes, I have a master's in science and engineering government. Oh yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I recently found this on another stream I watch, which is that sometimes it oh, good night, Omni. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you have a great night. Get some good rest. Have a good week. Another stream that I watch, if you it defaults to showing top chat, and I don't know how YouTube determines which chat messages should go into top versus general, so sometimes you have to manually click on it. In fact, when you click and do like live chat, I wonder if this will actually work on the stream. 1 second. Hopefully this works. Yeah, okay, seems like it came up. So mine as well was on top chat, so I'm sorry if I missed anybody's messages. I don't think so, but yeah. Oh, hey, Dr. Strangle, how's it going? Thanks for checking out the stream. How's your weekend going? This is the... Do you ever just get, like, hit with a massive wave of tiredness out of nowhere? That just happened to me now. I don't know if I had too much caffeine or not enough caffeine, but, like, I just just fucking crashed trying to read your comment. I apologize. Dr. Strangle, welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing okay. This is one of the only explanations of the chakra system we get in the series, but it becomes instantly irrelevant as the series, even right after this, just treats chakra stamina. Yeah, and people say stuff like, oh, he's out of chakra. If you run out of chakra, you'll die. Like, he has more chakra than this other guy. They never really talk about stamina again. And then I think, you know, I'm not an expert on Guy, but he definitely seems to just kind of, and Lee as well, they both seem to just kind of use chakra to empower their taijutsu. I don't think this explanation of what Lee is doing here is really accurate, right? Like, I don't think it's just stamina going into taijutsu. I think his body does get empowered by having more chakra run through it. It's just that, like, the chakra actually goes to taijutsu, like enhances his body, which contributes to taijutsu. I think it's more like that, right? Like, chakra can go to taijutsu or ninjutsu or genjutsu. It's just that to go here, he needs to go through the signs first, if that makes sense. Like, but I don't know. It's one of those things that I think was a great way of introducing the concept, but maybe later on wasn't fully developed. And I don't know, I've been reading a little bit of JJK lately, and if you've read it, you'll know that in the bottoms of various panels, or like the bottom of certain chapters, the creator will write, look, okay, somebody is going to ask me how this works later, and they're going to argue about it. I know what you guys are like, so here, I'm going to write this out very, 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 very simply. I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have the time to explain this, because I know somebody's going to, like, find something wrong with it. I wish you guys could just don't even think about it. Just enjoy the fights. But here you go. And then he'll write like a little blurb at the bottom explaining how it works. And I feel like maybe if Kishimoto put a few more of those throughout the series, it would have helped avoid some of this stuff. Right? Dr. Strangle says, I like to say Naruto's chakra system is a soft magic system trying to pretend it's a hard magic system. That feels fine to me. Yeah, I think that feels pretty fair. Yeah. It's... Can we just call it like a is there a good word for something that's like semi-hard that won't be taken out of context? Maybe you guys can help me think of something. Omnipomni and Sage server. Okay, just catching up. Preemptive, thank you for your time. Yeah. I love to see you guys continuing the discussion. That's great. Where'd you get those meters? Shut up and check this out. Yeah, exactly. That was literally his conversation with Onoki. I think you quoted it literally there. Yeah, and then good night to Omni. Omni took off. That's great. That's not what I meant. Oh, yeah, the motherfucker's out of here. Good. No, that's not what I meant at all. It's nice to have a chance to say goodbye and wish everybody well. Yeah, and if anybody needs to duck out before... just like at any time, obviously, please feel free. I understand people have different schedules and all that. So the VODs, I don't plan on ever taking the VODs down for any of these streams. So I'll always be there for people to check out unless YouTube gives me trouble for whatever reason. So sorry, says, honestly, the fact that that your chat does the same means it's not an app thing, it's a YouTube thing, and that means it can. Yes, please do. YouTube is like a necessary evil, right? On the one hand, I feel kind of stupid complaining about it, since I spend more time listening to YouTube videos than probably any other single activity in my day-to-day life. Honestly, it's kind of sad when you think about it, but no, it's not actually, because the stuff I listen to, I go to YouTube for comedy, for music, for interesting stuff, for stuff that pisses me off and gets me like motivated to have debates or whatever, you know. Like, I go to learn, I go to have fun, I go to connect with people. It's a great platform that has slowly over time been eroded and corrupted and twisted by certain corporate forces that have made things kind of shit. But the actual idea of it, the actual platform, is really great, right? And I think that we can appreciate the nice parts while also complaining about the irritating bullshit. Ari says, the ability to solve problems with magic is proportional to how well the reader understands the magic. Yes, something I think a lot of stories need to understand. Is that something that comes from a particular series, like describing how the magic works in the series? Sounds like it might be in Wheel of Time type thing. Dr. Strangle says, yeah, one of Gege's end chapter statements was literally, my previous explanation was wrong. The point is the 3 abilities to X, Y, and Z. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I kind of like how informal and friendly he is. I've been struggling to get into the story of JJK a little bit. I fucking love Jogo, and I love the curses themselves. And I want to see more of that world, but I don't know, the whole, like, we're in school and we have to have a competition. Like, I know Naruto does it too. I'm just not really all that invested in that. I think Gojo is also a really interesting character. He seems to have like vague Kakashi energy about him, but also have his own thing. But yeah, the fight between Gojo and Jogo, with the unveiling of what is it called, Infinity and then Unlimited Void, like those 2 abilities, was really, really fucking cool. The way that the domain expansions are rendered is really awesome. I like Sukuna as a character as well, although we haven't heard much about him, but or like we haven't spent all that much time with him. But I do kind of like the, I have an evil asshole living in my head, but maybe I can make friends with him long enough to do something productive thing that Boruto also has going on with Momoshiki. So yeah, it's an interesting conceit for a story, and I'm curious to see where they go with it. I just kind of got fatigued after a little while, but yeah, it's a great series so far. So I will say that I don't know too much about kabuki theater. Oh, Brandon Sanderson said this about writing his books. Okay, cool. I have to look into that author. So I will say about Jiraiya that his aesthetic is largely inspired by kabuki theater, and I don't really know all that much about it. This is one of those things. I was lucky enough to see a Bunraku performance at one point, but I never managed to get to see kabuki, unfortunately, or no either. But he does have that aesthetic. His whole appearance is inspired by that sort of thing, including his tendency to make a big grand entrance. Something that I didn't realize is that the red markings on his face, while inspired by kabuki theater, are also meant to be tears of blood that reference his dead comrades or something like that. This is one of those things where the databook, I think, does actually provide us with some useful and interesting info, and what I think the databooks are meant to be used for in big air quotes. So obviously, the databooks don't necessarily have to have one specific meaning or purpose. They're open to interpretation. They're open for people to derive joy from however they like. But specifically with this sort of thing, when we learn about, from the 3rd databooks, we learn that like Kakuzu fought Hashirama, and we learned what happened with their fight and the consequences, and how he discovered Jongu as a consequence of that fight. That's the sort of shit that I think the databooks are quote unquote really for. Well, one of the things. It's not the only thing. This thing over here, where like we're never told by Jiraiya or anybody else that he is referencing a real world kabuki theater type of thing. We're never told why he paints his eyes. It's not anything that ever comes up. So there's the data book providing us with supplementary information to help us better understand the series and like fill in some of the gaps. Now, obviously, data book also provides us with more, I guess, clinical or specific information along the lines of describing how a jutsu works or something like that. And that's totally fine. It can be about multiple things. But at the end of the day, you know, I look to the data books more for that sort of holistic, multiple angles sort of discussion, more so than like we should take everything literally, if that makes sense. And I guess you could be skeptical. You could just say that, you know, the data books are unreliable and therefore you shouldn't accept these statements either. That's not unfair. But at the same time, a statement like, here is the story behind why Jiraiya paints his eyes, being taken literally, I think is quite different from a statement like, Pain's Chiba or Shinra Tensei can literally blow anyone away and destroy any foe. Now, as much as I like standing Pain, and as much as I want to everybody to accept the gospel truth that he is capable of soloing the entire verse with his eyes closed, not really. I still don't want to accept that statement at face value. I don't really literally think that Pain can destroy the entire world with like one flick of his wrist. But I do accept that Jiraiya's eye paint is meant to represent tears of blood. So I'm trying to figure that out in my head. Why do I accept one of those statements and not the other? And I guess that's something that could potentially be like a, I wouldn't say hypocrisy, that feels too strong, right? But like a double standard, a contradiction, maybe. It's something I'm going to have to think about. Intuitively, it makes perfect sense to me, right? But could I win a debate about that? Could I convince somebody, here is why you need to, or you should believe the Jiraiya statement, but not believe the Pain statement? The best explanation I can give right now with my slightly hungry brain is that, you know, one of them is embellishing, whereas the other is going way overboard, if that makes sense. Yeah, Kakuzu has no blind spots, you're right. He has omnidirectional vision. He can sense the origins of time itself. And also, listen, Sarya, we technically haven't seen the sun destroy Kakuzu, which means it is possible for Kakuzu to destroy the sun, because we haven't ruled out that possibility. And frankly, if you don't think that it's possible, then you're just being skeptic. And if you're just being skeptic, then all you're doing is reducing every conversation down to like a complete reductio to ad absurdism, which means that you are speaking in a way that's antithetical to conversations. You're speaking in a way that's antithetical to power scaling. And frankly, I don't even know why you bother talking to anyone ever, because you literally said, I have it here on recording, you literally just said that nothing matters, you can't prove everything, and the whole world could be the hallucination of a fish in a jar somewhere, right? We could be in one of Madara's Tsukuyomi fish dreams, right? For all you know. So why are you even talking to me? I win, you lose. And just to be very clear, that was a bit. Don't believe anything I just said, but I've heard some arguments like that recently, so I'd be venting a little bit. Immediately gets blindsided, yeah. Loha asks, would you count Pain as having his eyes closed if his summons don't also close their eyes? Is that cheating? I should have clarified. That's a very good point. I should have clarified. Nagato with no eyeballs on his own, unable to move, lying down just like with a little pillow behind his head, no animal summons, Fox only final destination, no items, could just like lick his pinky finger and blast the sun apart. That's the agenda I'm advocating for. No. Yeah, Luan Jax, you figured me out immediately. Noodle type arguments. Yeah, that's what's been happening. I don't know what to say. Zarya says, it's basically like, how much sense does this make? Like, if you read this in the story, does this make sense with what you're reading? If we're being honest and it doesn't, maybe it's just a hyperbole. Yes, that's very true. I personally, that doesn't seem too difficult to me to substantiate. It's just, and I'm not calling anybody out here. I'm not trying to be shitty. I understand that this is, people generally assume and accept as a community that the data books are all true. And it's not my intention to say if you have accepted that you're stupid or that you're being unreasonable or whatever. We are told, we're like fed this line that they're called data books, they're written by Kishimoto, so they're all true. That's what comes in our like, hey, welcome to the Naruto debate community starter pack, right? And then we have to kind of go through the process of like actually untangling the arguments and figuring it out. And I think some people, it's tough, right? It's tough to get to that place, I guess. And I want to be very careful to not sound arrogant, like, well, I'm woke, nobody else has figured this out except like me. I transcended the, none of that shit, right? Like, it's just, if you actually sit down and read through all 4 of the data books, you start just like keeping a little notepad open, how many statements there are that are just completely bizarre, irrelevant, hyperbolic, or whatever. It becomes very clear that the author is doing this thing where he like has fun with his writing, and he wasn't sitting there writing statements for the purposes of then people like using them in arguments against each other. He just kind of like likes his job, I think, and was having fun describing the shit that he had created, and so he decided to have fun with it and be like there's I have to go find it, but there's like a databook entry for Choji where it's like his expansion jutsu is like the majesty, the calamity, the terror, Choji, the true giant emerges, and it's like, motherfucker's just like having fun. Like, calm down. We can all just enjoy this. We don't have to actually think of Choji as like inspiring terror when he uses the jutsu, right? That doesn't have to be literally true. He's not the most majestic person in the village because he can get big, big, big. You could just like have some fun with this, please. Anyway. Zarya says, my favorite thing is that people will say this is true, but you point out a contradiction suddenly, it's death of the author. Yeah, that's another thing that like I think people throw around too much. So sorry, I'd actually be very curious to hear your take on this, because on the one hand, I totally agree with death of the author, and on the other, I think it's really dumb. Because on the one hand, if somebody hands you a book, and yeah, Choji the butterfly, that version of him during the war is truly majestic. Like, let's not argue about that, right? Like, he does truly become a majestic butterfly. There's no disputing that, in my opinion. It's undeniable. He's very, very majestic when he gains his wings. But let's see. Yeah, so on the one hand, if somebody gives you a book and says, read this book and interpret it and enjoy it, or like find your enjoyment in it or whatever, and you read the book and you're like, okay, I analyzed it as closely as possible. I really did my best. And this is a book that is promoting democracy or something. This book is purely democratic. And then somebody tells you, actually, this book was written by somebody who's an anarchist and who hates all form of government. Now, on the one hand, it kind of doesn't matter at all, because whether they wanted to or not, they produced a book which is, assuming the analysis and interpretation was correct, pro-democratic. And if you read the book and you got a pro-democratic message out of it and you shared that with other people and they had the same consensus, okay, then the book is pro-democracy, and it doesn't matter whether the author hates democracy with every fiber of their being. It's a pro-democratic book, right? But on the other hand, if the author is genuinely an anarchist, then it kind of makes you wonder why they would write a pro-democratic book. Like, is it actually an accident? Is it satire? Is it something that they really tried to go against democracy and just failed? There is, you can't really actually separate somebody from their art, because the human brain, when it produces things, is doing so for a reason. it's making decisions. Those decisions are based on learning and experience and, I don't know, brain processing, not to get too cerebral with it. But the person who makes a piece of art, the art carries a part of the person with them. And I think unless you understand why and how that person is an anarchist and why and how they were able to weave their anarchy, like, even if it was a total, like, fuck up, their attempts to make a book about anarchy resulted in this book about democracy, is really, really interesting, and it gives you more appreciation and understanding of the work itself. I don't want to say that you can't understand the work without understanding the author. You clearly can. You can interpret it, you can enjoy it, you can come to correct or incorrect conclusions about it, but the full body of work that's being presented, I think you have to at least listen to what the author is saying. You have to try to at least understand them to a certain extent. Right? At the very least, I don't think it's fair to say unilaterally, unequivocally, globally, or whatever, that an author's work has nothing to do with them, and that, like, understanding the author and their intentions and their desires for their work has nothing to do with the work itself. To me, something about that seems wrong. Is it fair to say that, like, I don't know, George Lucas making the Star Wars movies, right? Like, he wanted, we talked about this before, right? Like, let's say it was always his intention to make it so that Greedo shot Han first, and that Han was never a villain, never had a dark side, but he always was just a hero and he was just defending himself. And now George Lucas put that movie out into the world with Han shooting first, and now it does depict him as a little bit of a darker character. So I guess it doesn't matter, like, at all, right? It doesn't really matter that Han was intended to be more heroic. He exists, death of the author, in the movie as a bit of an anti-hero, as a bit of a dark past kind of person. But at the same time, understanding why that decision was made and the decision behind it, understanding George Lucas as a creator, what does he consider to be a hero? Why is he depicting Han and in that light to begin with? How does Han connect to, like, depictions of Indiana Jones, right? Like, you understand Han as a character better once you understand what George Lucas's intentions were and everybody else who worked on that character. And I think it enhances and enriches your understanding. So there's some nuance. It matters deeply and profoundly and inexorably, and it also doesn't matter at all. Weirdly enough. Why did I sound like Vegeta? I don't know. When did I sound like Vegeta? When I said majestic like that? I think I missed. Oh, when I said, like, undeniable. I think, damn it. I don't want to jump scare Luan if he's still, if they're still trying to sleep. But yeah, when I was like, undeniable, something like that, right? Trying to reference the whole, like, me being frustrated at people saying that you can't dispute or deny arguments. Saria says, I agree. I think it's a situation like our world in general, right? Like, a lot of things in our world is gray. You have to look at both ways and come to a full understanding. Yes, absolutely. It's nuanced, like you said. Yeah, I think that's a fair take. It really depends on the situation, too. So, something that I didn't realize at first, and something that I think people forget about, at least I... I undeniably sound just like Vegeta. Move out of the way, Chris Sabat. Or Sagat, damn it. Yeah. I could probably get a little bit more, like, gutturalness to my voice, but I don't want to shout if people are trying to drift off to slumber. Like, Kakarot, my power will always exceed yours. I am the true prince of all Saiyans. He sounds just like that in the series, right? He's, like, very demure. Oh. Something that I think is kind of fun, that I think at least I personally forget about, and I assume maybe some other people forget about too, is sorry, don't tempt me. It's you're setting me up to jinx. It's gonna happen. I almost, like, knocked my fucking glass off of my desk a minute ago, and the glass would have shattered on the floor and woken everybody up. So you know what? I'm just gonna put it over here. Okay. Off the table. Everybody's calm. No noises. Okay. I actually used to make and perform noise music, like punk music and stuff. And so, you know, maybe we can have a particularly noisy stream sometime. But anyway, so this is gonna be a Jiraiya versus Pain stream at this point, but that's fine. So something that I think is really fun to note is that we forget that summoning requires blood. Back when Naruto first summons Gamabunta for the first time, you know, which is somewhere around here, right? He has to actually make a blood contract in order to sign, to put his name on the scroll to be able to summon Gamabunta. Now, I think once you've done it once or twice, maybe you don't need to use blood every single time. And I think when he's like falling down into the chasm, he doesn't use blood there. I know when he like Orochimaru uses blood to summon Manda. Let's see. Yeah, let's see what he does here. Yeah, okay, so here's a good example. Chapter 92. Jiraiya is talking to Naruto. Jiraiya bites his own thumb with a crunch, makes himself bleed, smears his blood, and then does this and summons this delightful little toad over here. I think his name is just Gamma, which just means frog, right? So, and Naruto does the same thing. Crunch, gets some blood, smears it around, and then he tries to do the summoning. Now, I don't remember what he does, like if he also does a crunch when he summons Gamabunta for the first time. Let's see. Let's see if he does. Okay. Maybe because he's already done a crunch, he doesn't need to here. But let's see. I know he... oh, this is cool. Like he tries to grab onto the surface with chakra, but he falls off. So I think here he has a conversation with Kurama and asks for some chakra. Is this the first time that he's ever actually encountered Kurama? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and here he does it again, right? He bites his thumb, he spreads some blood around, and then he actually summons Gamabunta. It's kind of cool. You see like this spurt, and it looks like Gamabunta is actually coming out of his hand. But he still has to do the hand signs and everything like that. And there he is. Cool. So yeah, that's something that I think we kind of forget about, is that blood is used as a medium for summoning, and it just kind of fades away, kind of like hand signs themselves. It's something that's not all that thoroughly explored. But here Jiraiya is actually taking his own blood and smearing his own blood onto his face, changing the glyph that appears, and then using that as a prerequisite for summoning the Toad Sages. Like, maybe everybody already knows this, but it's just kind of weird to me that it took a while for me to realize that Jiraiya is like smearing his face with blood as part of a summoning ritual. And it's kind of like occultic in a way. He also does this, he like clicks his feet together in order to create the barrier to have the fight, to be able to detect the chameleon. I like the sort of photo negative look that we get. It's actually a really, really cool effect. I wonder if it was actually drawn. I bet it was drawn on like a black page with white etching on top of it, as opposed to being shaded in, right? That's really cool. And Pain, of course, recognizes the barrier immediately, summons the offensive critter as well. Oh, Saria says, okay, the blood contract thing is crazy because I'm always like, bro, how do they bite their thumb so hard? Like, I love Naruto, but these characters have to be insane. Yeah, you ever crunch your thumb to see how it feels when Naruto does it? Let me see. Ow, fuck. Well, it's harder than it looks. I've never crunched it. Oh yeah, I love the Geta sandals. The foot click is legendary. Yeah, absolutely. It's such a bombastic moment for Jiraiya too, you know. But yeah, like I never really actually tried to draw blood for myself that way. But I admit, like when I was younger, especially, I would try and see like, can you? It starts to hurt pretty quickly. not big surprise, right? If you fucking bite yourself like that. But I don't think it's a great source of blood, right? Like, you know, the other one that kind of comes up is Eren in Attack on Titan, right? He's always like biting his hands and stuff to transform. But it's especially your thumb like that. You have to get pretty fucking deep into your thumb to get that much blood to come out, right? But I guess it makes more sense than always having to have a knife or something on hand to like cut yourself up with. So the biting makes sense. And also, you know, I don't know if it really makes sense from a practical standpoint, but it's a very he's almost doing it kind of lovingly here. He's like cupping his hands and like catching the blood and everything. He doesn't want to waste any, I guess. But yeah, it feels like a kind of intimate, like not intimate, but it feels like a very you know, maybe intimate's not the right word. How can I explain it? It's right there. It's immediate. Immediate is the word I'm looking for. It's always available. It's always something that you're going to have on hand, and it feels like you're being willing to make a personal sacrifice and being willing to endure pain before you even get into the fight. So it's a great way of kind of telegraphing, okay, this character is taking this seriously. They're prepared to, you know, face the pain, I guess in this case literally, haha, and endure what they need to, and they're already offering up a sacrifice before the battle even begins. So yeah, I think it's a very striking and very compelling way of generating intention and all that. So we talked about before that we have the dog, and so something that I think Daigo Knight mentioned in one of his videos is he thinks the face the who? I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're referring to, Saria. But, face the pain. Yeah, taste the pain. I'm not sure if we're talking about the same thing, but that's cool. So when going up against the doggo over here, we talked about last time, or like a few months ago actually now, the doggo has some, how can I say? There are two things that were brought up about the dog that I wanted to address. The first one is that the dog, quote unquote, has no feats, and we already talked about that in previous streams, but basically, like, everything that we see here is a feat, right? Like, this exploding through the wall, this one, these are all feats, presumably of the dog attacking and destroying the wall. So, that does put the dog at some sort of AP level, if you're prepared to do that calc. The other thing is that Daigo Knight in one of his videos said that, like, Jiraiya only won against the dog because he had to use hacks against the dog or something like that, right? He used a hack to defeat it. And I don't think that's the case, because, you know, here he's engaged with the doggo in the fight. The dog begins to split up, fights against Gamabunta and Jiraiya. Cool to see that the barrier is like tracking Jiraiya, like it's attached to him, right? It's not something he just planted somewhere. But now we see that Gamaken is being pushed back. Jiraiya perceives an incoming attack. It's from the bird, smashes into the shield, pushes Gamaken down, and at this point swaps out with another animal summon. So at no point do I see any sort of hack that Jiraiya used to defeat the dog, unless you consider Gamaken to be a hack, right? He just fended off his attacks, and then Pain attacked him with the bird instead. And I think the reason why is because it's pretty subtle, but, you know, obviously we're in the Rain Village. If you look closely here, you can see that there are multiple people who are getting displaced by the battle. They are they have like these massive pipes that are being destroyed, being cut out of the walls, and they're falling on them, and they could potentially kill them. Now Pain is prepared to attack and destroy other villages, but I think he still cares about his own people. He still cares about his own village, and so seeing this amount of destruction, he doesn't necessarily want to continue doing this for longer than he has to. I say that, and then the big 10-headed dog shows up. So maybe he's prepared. But he also splits them up into little dogs, in which case they might be doing less damage than, you know, less total area damage. But personally, I think the reason why the dogs disappear is because Pain just decides to pull them back, and he pulls them back in favor of more focused, targeted attacks. And maybe part of the reason why he's making that decision is because of collateral damage. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the conversation about how, yes, the environment and the terrain and the context does matter and does play a role in how people fight each other, right? So let me catch up a little bit on some chat here. Oh, you were referencing Pain. Sorry, I gotcha. Oh, hey, Red Muhammad. How's it going? Thank you so much for checking out the stream. Hope you're having a good night, having a good weekend. Yeah, I do know Jiraiya died, yes. The reason I'm talking about this... Sorry, it's just the dog has exactly 4 feet. Yes, exactly. Until it splits up, and then it has several more, but it always comes back down to 4, right? And 2 little wings as well. Let's not forget those. So Red asks, you know Jiraiya died, right? Yep. So Jiraiya was absolutely defeated by Pain over the course of this fight. My view, just to be clear, is that Jiraiya is not only below Pain in terms of like combat ability and scaling and all that, but also just like very significantly below him. Some folks seem to think that Pain was struggling pretty heavily against Jiraiya, and although Jiraiya does gain the upper hand and manage to do quite a bit of work at certain points in the fight, you know, hold up to him, Pain is holding back consistently throughout the entire fight. Once Pain starts taking things seriously, Jiraiya is basically done. He can barely hold on long enough to survive to gather some intel. He dies, and as far as we know, you know, maybe Pain used Shinra Tensei Bancho Tenin off screen, almost certainly didn't use it at full strength, almost certainly didn't, use it at, use the Chibaku Tensei in the village. So, part of why I wanted to start here, rather than jumping right into the Pain versus Naruto stuff, is that I think it's worth examining those claims and trying to understand why people might come to the conclusion that he was heavily struggling with Jiraiya, which I disagree with, but also just to kind of examine the fight and look at little details. Like, I never noticed this before. When Jiraiya comes out of getting pummeled by the ox over here, one of the ox's horns, I believe, it could be one of the chakra rods, but I think it's the horn, gets cut off, and I think we still see it cut off during the Naruto fight later. I'm not 100% sure, but now I want to go look. Because when we see the chameleon later, we do see that it's like bandaged up or something. It's missing an eye and stuff like that. So nice little continuity there. Red says, I watched Naruto Shippuden and original, so I know what happens. You don't need to tell me. Okay, yeah. I'm not trying to preach to you or anything. I just, sometimes it's useful to kind of go over the details. And I like kind of summarizing things as I go, just to make sure that like I've brought everyone up to speed, including myself. Right? Red Muhammad says, why does have filler? I hate it. Yeah, I just started getting into Boruto, and I didn't like it at first, but then I kind of grew to like it quite a bit. And I was going to check out the anime until I realized that apparently 70% of the entire Boruto anime is filler. And, you know, maybe there's some good stuff in there. I think like there's some stuff with Urashiki that apparently is pretty fun. And then also with Jiraiya as well. But I don't know, man. I don't want to play dodge the filler every time like I pull out an anime. I understand why they make it, right? They want to try to oh no, so the horn does grow back, okay, or it gets repaired or something. So I was wrong about that. But anyway, I understand why they do it. They, you know, obviously we probably already know this, right? But like they want to keep up. They want to create more content while they wait to be able to catch up to the manga. But unfortunately, the quality of the filler is not particularly usually on par with the manga. And I forget what it was the other day. I think I was looking at the Pain fight, and then there was a point in the Pain fight in Shippuden, right, where, or maybe in the war arc or something like that, where everything is kind of culminated and there's about to be this big major fight, this big major moment, and then there's like literally a year of filler content. They just keep going on all these. Naruto goes to the land of the magical mushrooms to do whatever the fuck he's doing over there. Naruto goes to fight some ninja ostriches. I don't even remember what the content was specifically, but it was just like an entire season of filler at this pivotal plot hanger thing, or cliffhanger thing. It's just so frustrating. Like, especially if that's the only way you engage with it, you just have to consume so much. Like, if you don't read the manga, if you only have access to the anime for whatever reason, there's just so much content there that you have to endure, so to speak, before you get back to the good stuff. Hey, maybe some people out there like really, really like the filler, and that's great. Oh, you know, I haven't seen like any of it, so maybe there's actually some really genius stuff out there. I honestly don't know, but I would still be like so fucking frustrated. You know, if I'm watching Andor and I'm really enjoying it and we get to the big confrontation with a major character and then suddenly it switches to like 10 hours of the Clone Wars, the animated series, I'd be like, wait, what the fuck? Wait, okay, this is fine, but can we go back, please? I really want to see what happens. So yeah, it's kind of annoying. But yeah, like I never noticed that the horn gets cut off. And so this is something important to note too, is that the Ox here gets desummoned, like we see the boof, so clearly has taken enough damage to do so. So you could argue that like Jiraiya's first feat, as like in Honored Sage mode, is to one-shot one of Pain's animals, and that could be part of the overall scaling for this character, right? But I wanted to see if we see anything similar for the dogs. So the dogs are attacking him, fights out the dogs above you. No, he gets kicked back. I guess like maybe what Daigo was referring to was he saw these clouds over here and he thought that the clouds might be like a poof of the animals desummoning. And like I'm just putting words in his mouth, honestly, because I don't remember what his thought process was. But regardless, I don't think so. I don't think it's the same kind of cloud, and we don't see the same sound effect and everything. So I really do think that Pain just retired the summon because he didn't want to keep it up. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, maybe he just like swapping things out. Anyway, yeah, the Mecha Naruto one. Sorry, it does sound really interesting. Is it ever explained like who manufactures the the Mecha Naruto robot thing? Honestly, I thought that was just like an Easter egg or something that they put in to one of the Storm games, but there's actually like a whole arc for it. Now I'm deadly curious, or morbidly curious. Okay, so we get a little bit of banter between Jiraiya and Manpa. It's nice that he's being a little bit deferential. The pupils of the eyes of the six paths. So this is interesting. My opponent possesses Rinnegan, other people. So they haven't seen it before. Oh, yeah, interesting. So Manpa are really old, and something that comes up sometimes when talking about them is that they are two venerated old sages. And so it's kind of assumed that what they say is true, right? Because they're old and wise. But you have to acknowledge the fact that they are also learning this fight along with Jiraiya. They've never actually encountered a Rinnegan user before. And they're not even necessarily entirely sure that they really do exist, right? There's a prophecy around them. There's a prophecy around the Stage of Six Paths, but folks don't necessarily know if it's all true yet, right? So this is them all encountering it together at the same time. Loha says there are 2 episodes Orochimaru. Oh my god, that makes it so much better. Have you seen Video Game Donkey's video on the Donkey Kong TV show? See if I can. Well, I'm actually not gonna find it because I don't want to risk jump scaring again. But look up the YouTuber Video Game Donkey. Actually, I'll type it in chat. Video Game Donkey Kong TV show. Because they made a 3D animated TV series based on Donkey Kong a while ago. And one of the episodes, that's basically the plot, like, if I'm remembering it correctly, they knock out, what do? They, like, create a robotic clone of Donkey Kong's girlfriend, so that Donkey Kong's girlfriend so that the robot can sneak into his house and cut his hair, because apparently his hair is the source of his power. So they give him a really shitty haircut, and then he goes super weak, and then King K. Rool can come in and like steal the bananas or something. It's fucking insane. I love it. It's so good. And Donkey, if you're not familiar with him, like, he's super funny. He does all kinds of awesome video game videos. Highly recommend him. I'm watching him for years. Okay, so I think, yeah, I'm gonna probably change the thumbnail. I think tonight is going to be a Jiraiya versus Pain stream, not a Naruto versus Pain stream. But hopefully that's kind of fun. I do want to say I love the like photo negative like back and forth here, the use of light and shadow and white and black. You know, we have Pain has already been kind of seeing things through this sort of distorted field of vision for a while now, and we've seen that his view from inside the chameleon has been like this. This is a bit of a stretch, it's just my interpretation, but you could argue that the fact that we're seeing things through Pain's perspective as inverted in color is a like an artistic technique to try to emphasize to us that Pain is just seeing the world in a completely distorted way, or at least a very, very different way from other people's perspectives. Now, from a more practical standpoint, this is just telling us that like he's inside the chameleon and he's like seeing things in the dark because he's fucking in the dark, right? Like I could be overestimating or like overthinking it. But it is kind of cool that we have like Pain is in shadow and kind of illuminated and highlighted in white here. A technique that we don't see used that often in the series, but a very cool, very evocative one. And then we have a similar thing with Jiraiya also being in shadow and his form being obscured and being sort of slowly revealed as he comes out. Now I think this is, and then also like kind of emerging from what appears from Pain's view to be a bright white portal of light, whereas from Jiraiya's view, it is more of a dark tunnel that he's emerging from into the light. So there's a direct, literally photonegative contrast between Jiraiya's perspective and Pain's perspective here, which I think is really cool. Let's see. And I do like that Jiraiya always manages to maintain a consistent air of like performance and comedy and humor, even while things are dark and grim. I mean, like he has to kill his student, basically, is what he thinks, but he's still managing to kind of keep it a little bit of levity as well. Uses 6 paths. Summoning creature that can make itself transparent. Gotta be one of them. They're chameleon species. So it's kind of a knowledge feat for Ma that she immediately recognizes what kind of animal it is. And I know Jiraiya was like, what the fuck kind of animal is this? I've never seen one of these before. So that's cool. A little bit of a knowledge display from her. Probe barrier, okay. And Ma recognizes immediately that that's not going to be enough. So this is a mistake I've made before. And what Ma says here specifically is that she wants to drag Pain and the chameleon out using creature detection jutsu. Now, in discussions of like Jiraiya or like Pain versus anybody who has a Sharingan, something that comes up is, you know, the person arguing for Pain, me, will say, well, the chameleon can't be detected because it requires creature detection jutsu. And the opponent might say something like, well, if he's fighting Itachi can see invisible things with the Sharingan, so he can be detected. And I don't think I ever said this in a debate per se, but I know I've talked to people about this, and I made this mistake where I was like, no, Ma says specifically you need to use a creature detection jutsu because that's the only thing that can detect him. And that's not necessarily the case. I think that what's happening here is that Ma is just saying, okay, we need to do something to detect this motherfucker, so I'm going to use creature detection jutsu because that's what I have. That's in her arsenal. Like if, I don't know, if she had a Sharingan, she could also have used the Sharingan to detect them, but they don't, so this is what they happen to use. Obviously, if you need specifically a creature detection jutsu in order detection jutsu, then that would be more of a feat for Pain, but I don't think that's quite the case. Let's keep going. She's aware of the prophecy. She's surprised that he's fighting him. I don't want to think about the implications of this. I don't want to think about this. I don't want to think about what this means. I don't want to know why this is in her mouth and why it looks like this and why it has this expression. I kind of want to know about it. I'm kind of curious about it. I don't really want to know about it. Anyway, this is cool. Fucking kills the committee. Actually, something I missed on the previous panel, which is a nice little detail, is that it seems like there's so much power radiating off of the Honored Sage mode or something. This is just a really, like, a throwaway detail, but you see this onomatopoeia here that says crackle, and then you have, like, this little spark here and a spark over there, spark over there. It kind of looks like they're just generating so much energy with their chakra or something like that, that it's actually causing, like, a shiver to shake, or, like a tremor, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And it reminds me of when Tobirama lifts his finger and like all of this aura comes off of him and starts shaking the whole room when he's brought back as an Edo Tensei for the second time. And I know I wouldn't use that for power scaling or anything, but it's a nice little narrative moment that kind of emphasizes how much more powerful Jiraiya has gotten by summoning the two sages, right? Loha says Ma didn't want to reveal her Sharingan. Yeah. Well, she doesn't want to take it out until she really needs it, and she doesn't know she needs it yet, right? So it's that power scaling escalation. Sari's opponent says pain is typical ideology of jumping people. Yeah. He does like to try to look for opportunities to pounce, I suppose. He does that with the Asura path in the Naruto fight, right? So, but yeah, this is actually pretty impressive for Pa. Like I didn't really know what this was at first, but what he's doing here is he's using a water ninjutsu, which he casts without even wielding any science, right? It's just, I think it's explained in the data books that he's accumulating water in his cheeks and then using his mouth to basically create a highly pressurized stream of chakra, kind of like putting your finger over the lip of a hose or something like that, right? So a couple of little interesting details. I like the way that the kind of action lines are casting away from the center in both directions, kind of gives it a extra sense of motion over there. Also, this little splork over here gives us some more understanding of what's going on, or just like a little bit of extra motion. To me, it kind of emphasizes that he's like trying to squeeze his cheeks together, pause, to get the liquid to spurt out with more intensity. It's kind of cool here to see what appears to be the chameleon. Oh, the tail looks sad. Oh, buddy. Never noticed that before. Little snake tail looks upset, which, I mean, who can blame him, right? But the chameleon previously seems to have been affected by acid burns, so we see like little steam rising up off of him, which is a nice little detail there. It gets cut in half, of course. Monpon are really underrated, says Loha. Yeah, I would say so. It's kind of a shame that they didn't find the... Well, I mean, like, I was going to say never get brought back again, but, like, obviously, fighting in this fight, they do quite a lot. They actually do a lot of the heavy lifting. That was what I was going to talk about today. Just kind of wound up taking a different track, which is totally fine. But yeah. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. Welcome to the Ancient Toad Sexualization stream. Today we're going to be talking about, like, spurting jets of water from pressurized cheeks. Welcome. You bring your kids. It's fun for all ages. It's not what I set out to do today, but it happens. What can I say? Okay, so now we have a little flashback. We don't actually get to spend too much time on Mount Miyoboku, which is a little unfortunate. I think this is supposed to be Gamabunta, right? Yeah. This is a younger Gamabunta without the scar. He looks so much older in when we encounter him in the series. I guess the toads really do age quickly. So this is kind of weird. Shit. I forgot. I'm forgetting. I'm having a total mind blank. Somewhere recently, I think I read that this toad was around when Kaguya first showed up. And I'm not sure if that's actually true. I'm trying to remember, was it the last stream or something we were talking about this? That, like, this particular toad was like a little tadpole when Kaguya was around and then has survived for that long. Something like that. And if that's the case, then that kind of makes sense, where the prophecy that's actually being told here isn't just some sort of magical prophecy being told about the future so much as it is like seeing into the future through like a clairvoyance or whatever. It's more of, oh yeah, this person has been around for millennia and and knows what's coming, like knows about Hagoromo and Hamura, like saw what happened millennia ago, saw Kaguya, understands all this stuff, and so he or she is delivering the prophecy in the form of or delivering like the information in the form of a prophecy, but really it's just like a well-informed prediction based on what they've seen in the past. Like they've seen this happen. They've seen sort of like the Indra Ashura thing or Ashura thing happen before. Probably just doesn't remember all the details. I love these like giant codices over here. Really cool. Sorry, I don't don't encourage me. I will do that stream. I will do a stream ranking all toads by level of sex appeal. I'm not above doing that. smash or pass with the amphibians of Naruto. That's what we're doing next time. You asked for it. See. Well, maybe I'm not giving enough credit here. It does seem pretty explicit that the frog is having, like, experiencing prophecies over here. But yeah, I'm gonna need to go look into who this character is. Anyway, starting to kind of come to the end of my stamina for the evening, I think. Gotta go. I haven't eaten food yet, and I gotta go get something to eat. But there's just a couple of things I want to point out here, and then next time we can talk more about Naruto versus Pain. But yeah, I love the fact that he's still able to kind of keep up that sense of levity, like he's doing his dance, like he's got his what did you say these sandals are called? The ghetto sandals. Yep. Loha, have you played Sekiro? There's a whole level in Sekiro with these characters wearing sandals, climbing up this difficult, like, mountain span. That's a really cool rendition. I love these panels as well, where like Jiraiya's face is divided between the two arguing. And on the one, so I think that something that Kishimoto does very well, as I mentioned before, is weaving in comedy with serious moments. And this banter here, this comedy, this kind of moment of levity, the entire thing is kind of a setup for this moment where Jiraiya just kicks the Path of Pain in the face, right? You're kind of expecting that he's vulnerable, that he's distracted, that he's irritated because he's caught up between these two squabbling toads. But at a moment's notice and at close range, he can basically just like completely revert into combat mode. And not only that, he also kicks the path all the way back and in one fell swoop blinds him. Now, I know I complained about this before. I'm just going to say this very briefly. That Path of Pain is definitely blind. The third data book specifically says, and this is an instance where we can trust the third data book for entirely selfish reasons, but also, I mean, come on. Third data book says that he is blinded, okay? Now, I had a certain conversation with a certain special someone in which they argued that, well, it's possible that they weren't actually blind. It's possible that the path kept its eyes closed for the rest of the fight because it just decided at this point that it wanted to keep its eyes closed because Pain decided he wanted to hold back. So Jiraiya kicks the path in the eyes, and then Pain was like, oh, I went all too out. I was being a little bit too aggressive. Now I'll hold back, and so I'll actually close this path's eyes. And then the fact that they are colored in, well, that doesn't matter. That could just be shadow, right? It's not necessarily bruising, even though we get kicked in the eyes. That could just be shadow. You don't know that. Like, and then I'm like, well, it's not shadow. It's actually bruising. Well, you don't know that either. It could just be that Kishimoto actually like just made an art mistake. Like he drew the eyes too dark. Like you weren't there. You weren't in his head. You don't know if he just decided that he wanted to draw the eyes dark for some arbitrary reason. And then he just forgot about that, and he's like, oops, now I got to draw him this way every single time. So really, like, it could be an art mistake, or it could be that he was just holding back, and you just don't know. Like, that's the thing, guys. That's the thing that really sucks about reading Naruto, is that you can never know anything, ever, under any circumstances. Like, you just can't know that he was kicked in the eyes here. Anything could have happened between this and this, right? Like, a whole universe could have spawned and ended between. Okay, I'll stop. Not that I'm bitter about it a year later or anything. But I'll stop now. Oh, hey Axel, how's it going? Thank you so much for stopping by. Yeah, no worries. You never need to apologize for being late. The stream schedule has been shifting around a little bit, and I'm going to be wrapping up pretty soon because I actually have to go do some family stuff, and eat food, which is good. But, you know, no worries at all. I appreciate you stopping by. The title for this stream, we're going to be talking about Naruto versus Pain. Wound up just kind of hanging out a little bit, having a casual chat, and doing a little Jiraiya versus Pain. So if you were here for the Naruto versus Pain stuff, that's going to be recapped, or that's going to be gotten into on the next one. So you didn't miss that in particular. And yeah, good. I like to see over here that Ma has the exact same sense of humor that I do, trying to force puns into any situation. this is kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see like Ma and Pa and Jiraiya all simultaneously doing the same hand sign and combining it together. And kind of funny is that it looks like Jiraiya and Pa are producing the oil, whereas Ma is the one who's actually adding the flame. So these two guys are the ones who are actually producing the fuel, and then Ma is igniting it, right? But then, of course, with the human path being down there, I see. So the human path is still recovering, starting to get up. Notice that there's still like some steam kind of coming off of it, or whatever, smoke, however you want to interpret that. But before it reaches them, before this wave of water reaches them, the Predapath manages to jump down into it. And this is a very important part about the Preda's absorption capability, right? I think Swag Kage in one of his debates said that I don't want to pick on him too much, but like, I've heard people have the impression that the Predapath needs to create a bubble or a barrier around itself to absorb chakra, but we don't actually see, or absorb jutsu, we don't actually see a barrier or a bubble created around him right here. And here he's actually stood with his feet planted inside the water. It looks like the boiling oil has started to engulf him a little bit, like it's up to his legs, right? And he's reaching out his, it's like above his ankles, like going up to his knees. He reaches out his palms, and then we see this big sort of fizzling, the clack. Notice that Jiraiya attaches himself to the wall here. Nice little onomatopoeia there. And he's looking down, and no damage done. Right? And I don't think we ever see any damage done to his feet, too. So at this point, even though he doesn't have a visible barrier erected, he still hasn't taken any damage to his legs or to his arms or even to his clothing, right? So granted, I don't think we need to take clothing damage literally all the time. Like, I think clothing is just kind of not, we're never told, oh, hey, Luan Jax, no worries. Thank you so much for sticking around. Hope you have a great night's sleep and get some rest. And thanks again. Sorry for the random jump scare. Hope I was able to help you get some good sleep despite all that. Have a good night. No damage except emotional. Yeah, exactly. I was a little embarrassed by having to pull out all the stops for a couple of frogs, but he'll recover, I suppose. Yeah, let's get through this chapter, and then I think I'll call it a night. So, yeah, so now this is the point at which we could be like, okay, well, clearly his cloak is made of a super special heat-resistant fiber that's just capable of ignoring any and all damage, and blah, 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 blah. Or we could just say, you know what, his cloak will get damaged when he gets damaged as a sign that he's taking damage. And he's not, we don't have to like get so granular about it and assume that every like piece of fabric has that in-depth of an explanation. I think it's great when authors do put that in, right? Like if we get a line about, I don't know, in Mass Effect or something like that, oh, I'm just making this up, but like, let's say you had a sci-fi show or a sci-fi video game and your characters were getting hit a lot, and they make some, like one of your squad makes a comment like, oh damn, how come we never need to replace this armor? And then somebody else on your team goes, nanomachines, son, shut up. And like you just told, like, okay, so nanomachines do it, that's fine. But it helps flesh the world out a little bit more, but it's not necessary, right? Like we can just kind of understand that doesn't have to specifically mean he has like a heat resistant cloak or whatever. So this is something that I have to give credit to Six for pointing out, that if you're looking for speed scaling for Jiraiya, first of all, it's kind of cool to see that like before Pain was above him looking down on him, but now when Jiraiya has entered into a more powerful mode, he is now up on the wall and he's looking down at them from an angle, right? And it's weird though, like he's not standing up on a cliff looking down at them, he's actually sort of even though he's above them looking down, he is also looking forward towards them. So I guess you could say that, like, visually speaking, in terms of a visual metaphor, Jiraiya had to completely shift his perspective to even be able to look Pain in the eyes, if that makes sense. Like, look at him on an even playing field. But that's, I mean, that's a bit of a stretch because they're looking up at him at an angle, and he's looking at them down at an angle as well. So it's not a perfect metaphor. Right? He's, like, leaning forward and up like this. But this is the thing that Six kind of pointed out, is that if you're looking for a speed scale for Jiraiya, you could take the distance that he is off of the ground and take the shoe or the Geta sandal that he drops down, and then look at the fact that he bursts forward and produces the Odama Rasengan and is on his, well, it's tough, right? Because he's on his way to the path over here, but hasn't gotten all the way to it before the sandal drops. It's just difficult to know exactly how far away he is. I think it's intuitive to be like, well, he is here when this happens, so he travels, you know, this amount of distance from here to here, right, in the time it takes for the sandal to go down. But it's a little finicky because because of the like cutaway, we don't exactly see the full thing. But it's something, right? There's something to look at there for scaling. Not to be too rude or anything towards Kishimoto, but I do think at this point you can kind of see that maybe some time constraints had emerged. If you look really closely here, the way that the layer of the inner, like the gray part here, is rendered is a bit pixelated. You can kind of see like there's individual pixels that are showing up, and there's like this little stream over here, and then the brushstrokes themselves are also kind of a little inconsistent. So I think what happened here was that they drew a circle, and then they also had, like, the team, they also had like a JPEG of like a swirly thing, and then they put that in as a background, and then they drew over it in pencil, probably because, or in pen rather, because they didn't have as much time as they would have liked to have done like a full shading job overall. And you can kind of see also here that the you know, there's a lot of like sort of erratic loose pen strokes that are being used in both of these scenes. It's unfortunate, but it also kind of makes sense because like being a mangaka just destroys your life in terms of time consumption. And just skim over some of this stuff. We talked about this before, right? Like the path of pain. That so this over here is, I believe, is the human path, right? Something that's very important to know about the human path is that it can rip out your soul just by touching you. And so if Pain were going all out here, he could have just killed Jiraiya. If you accept that you don't need to touch somebody's head to rip out their soul, which I think is so we see Nagato touch KCM Naruto's belly to pull out his soul, and then we see the human path on its own pull out like Shizune's soul by touching her head and then pulling out from there. So I guess it depends on whether or not you think the path of pain can pull out the soul from any arbitrary body contact, or if it needs to be one of those two things. But potentially he could have killed him here, right? Looks like Jiraiya's fist is engorged as well, which makes sense because he's partially transformed, but I'm guessing that means there's some extra sage energy that's flowing through that he can use to enhance his taijutsu. It's expected, but still nice to see. Little frog substitution here and a distraction. Kind of weird that he can't see through the smoke. It's a weird kind of caveat of Pain's. Jiraiya launches the Kebari Senbon. Swiss, 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 swiss. Nice little sound effects there. Cool that we see this tear on the wall. Now remember, this is a pretty incredible feat for the animal path. Like, Pain is able to use the animal path to block Jiraiya's fastest Sage Mode attack from close range, from behind while blinded. It's a jump scare. And the animal path itself, or the panda summon here, doesn't actually seem to desummon immediately. It gets unsummoned afterwards, as well as the frog, but it's not super clear to me if that's because it was destroyed. I don't think it's because it's destroyed. I think that Pain is just letting it go, right? Kind of a cool little detail here. The clouds that are associated with the toad are a different color from the cloud associated with releasing the summoning jutsu for the panda. It's a nice little way of differentiating them. And some nice glazing here of Pain. And yep, I think we can leave it here for tonight. Not exactly what I had planned for the stream, but I guess in a way it was. I really just wanted an excuse to talk about some fun stuff in a low-key environment. So I appreciate everybody who stopped by and engaged in the conversation. It was really nice to just kind of reconnect. so to speak, with some of the stuff that I love about the series. It was a great conversation, a lot of great, really interesting points. Next time will either be Pain versus Naruto, or it will be more stuff about like data book scaling. Just depends on how much time I have to do the research. But I'm looking forward to both of those topics. And then I think probably the week after that, I'll talk about the elephant in the room with the new meta, so to speak. Once I've had some more time to think about it. Yeah, thank you everybody. Oh, sorry, it says Nano Machine Son. Me when I'm telling my son about Iron Man's bleeding edge armor. Yes, it's a perfect example, a perfect explanation. Just like, hey, how did I survive that fall? Nanomachines. How am I going to defeat that enemy? Nanomachines. How do I nanomachines? I was going to ask what we're having for breakfast. Did I fucking stutter? Nanomachines, son. Saria says, I always forget Rasengan is literally just a ball in the manga because I played the game so much lately. Oh, is it different? Oh, is it more like obviously spherical in the games? Oh, sorry. I guess I should say it's a circle since the drawing it makes sense, yeah. Oh, jump scare, yeah. It's funny. Okay, well, yeah, thank you so much, everybody. I know it's a bit of a more impromptu stream tonight, but it was a lot of fun. Thank you for stopping by. Have a great rest of your weekend. Feel free to send me a message on Discord if there's anything you want to talk about or follow up on. And, yeah, have